Hi guys, and welcome to the War Story podcast. Again, apologies for the audio quality on this introduction. I am on the road, but wanted to get this episode out there. Just a note on audio quality, actually. Obviously, like we used to record in a studio, and then because we don't have the sponsorship and stuff that we used to, I wanted to keep this going. I've been recording from home. Things have got better over time. I've got the better internet now and everything like that, so that helps. So on the internet side, essentially what happens is when I do these podcasts, I usually record several in the same kind of week, and then we release them over time. And we're still kind of working through those episodes. We've got a couple more that are already recorded. Once those are done and we start recording the next batch, we will start doing video as well. So we'll start putting videos up on YouTube and stuff if that's the way that you like to consume your podcasts. And the other thing as well is I will be getting a new mic and that kind of thing as well. This mic has given good service for the last 6 years, but I think we can do better. So I'll be getting a new mic in and everything like that. So we've got a couple more episodes that are already recorded. So if you don't think the audio is great, just bear with them on the couple, and hopefully then we'll get another notch up as we bring ourselves into whatever century that we're in now. Got another great guest for you today, Mikey. He has sent me a little biography, so let me just read a little bit. Mike Harrage is a former British Army soldier who began his military career as a radio operator in the Royal Signals. Early on, he realised he wanted to push himself further and volunteered for the Airborne Forces straight out of training. If you want to read more of the biography, it's all down in the show notes, but I know you're going to be anxious to get into today's episode. As ever, guys, all that we ask is if you find something valuable or if you enjoy the podcast, please give it a share. Please leave a review. Even if you've done it before, please do it again. It's the only way that we can reach new ears. And obviously, give Mikey a follow on social media as well. It's all linked down in the show notes. All right, guys, thank you for your attention to this matter, as they say these days. And enjoy the episode, and I'll catch you again very soon. Mike, welcome to the podcast, mate. Thanks for coming on today. It's great to have you on.
Thank you, Gaz. It's surreal being on here. Like I said, I've been listening to this from the very start. So thank you.
No, well, thank you, mate. And thank you for listening as well. We just had a quick chat off air, mate, just to let the listeners know. Usually on the podcast, we kind of go pretty much straight into service, but unfortunately, your kind of circumstances are, I'm not going to say totally exceptional, because I served with two lads who had a similar kind of experience to you. So I'm really just going to open up the floor to you, mate, because you're going to know a lot better than me where to take this from. So if you want to just kind of go in and bring us through your childhood and then how that led you eventually to the army, whichever way you want, mate.
Yeah, sure. So before I start, I just we had a recent tragedy. My dad passed away 29th of December last year. So we've all been through quite a hard time, but I want to start off with gratitude. Thank you again, Gers, and then all of my siblings, my family, my partner, my children, my best friend, all the people that have really helped me get through this phase. Thank you. So my story then, in order for me to make this make sense, I've got to, I'm going to start with my dad and explain him and who he was. So my dad was born in 1945. He was one of the Second World War kind of children. He didn't know his father, and his dad, what we know of him is that he was an aviator in the Fleet Air Arm, and I think he was killed during the war. My dad left home at 15, joined the Merchant Navy, sailed around the world, and some of the stories that he told me, the way he said it in his older age, it was a bit like, I was like, all right, Dad. But yeah, he seemed to have a cracking time, and then he joined the RAF in the 60s as a rigger. Rigger is someone that climbs masts, communication towers and stuff like that. So he got married to a lady called Jan, and she was the mother of all four of my older siblings. So I'm one of 8. And yeah, so they moved to Malawi, it's in Africa, and unfortunately, tragedy struck my dad, and Jan fell terminally ill, and she passed away. So now my dad is in Malawi, in Africa, with 4 young children to look after. but he kind of cracked on. Yeah, so my dad got married to a lady called Maria. She really stepped up and kind of, stepped into the mothering role, looking after my brothers and sisters through what for them must have been an incredibly difficult time. But then tragedy strikes again. My family, they were out on a trip in the car. Maria was driving. My older siblings were in the car. The car rolled. All of my siblings survived, but Maria, she sadly died on the scene, so she was the only one to pass. And now again, my dad's in this position again, right? And it just blows my mind. I think, the strength that that man had really kind of helped me in life, because whenever I was feeling things are bad, I'd think, well, it can't have been as bad as that. So now we move on to me and my sister. So my dad then gets married again to a lady called Susan. Susan was Black African, Malawian, and she was my mother. My sister was born first, and I was born in 1990. Now, in order for, I have to give a bit more context and a bit more detail. Over in Africa in those kind of times, you had, the expat community. The exchange rate of the country was very low. So, I mean, if you earn like 30K a year here, you could live like a millionaire over there. But my dad kind of over the years, I think, had really amassed quite a small fortune. He had a farm, he had businesses, property, assets. My mum had her own businesses as well. So my sister said that my dad was a millionaire. And that's not to brag, that's just the circumstance, right? And because my mum was native Malawian, I think my dad had put all of the assets in her name for, I don't know, visa and that kind of stuff. So anyway, this is probably my earliest recollection, my earliest memory. So the way we lived, our houses, and in anyone that lives in Africa or a third world country will probably resonate when I say this. Over there, life is cheap. Do you know what I mean? I think there is horrendous things that happen in the UK, but over there, like crime, people really have nothing to lose. Do you know what I mean? So the crime rate and the kind of things that go on are, yeah. So I'm going to go into our house. Basically, our sleeping quarters where we slept every night there was a steel gate that divided the sleeping quarters from the rest of the house, and that normally would get locked every night for prevention of burglars or to prevent exactly what happened next. We had a security guard, all that kind of thing. So my dad was out of the country. He was getting an operation in South Africa, so it was just my sister and myself and my mum in the house. I was 4, my sister was 6. Basically, three men, 3 attackers gained entry to the house, and they raped and murdered my mum. My sister and I my sister, I think I can remember this. My sister pulled me under the bed, and we were hiding under our bed as this was going on. And I think my sister, after the commotion died down, she was only 6. She was the one that went out to go and see what happened. And I spoke to her recently. She said all her brain will let her remember is all the blood. So these guys have basically raped my mom, stabbed her multiple times, and then they wrapped her up in a pair of jeans, and it was, yeah. So that was what happened. The story kind of goes on from there. It got quite political. So my dad came back to look after us, to kind of fix up the aftermath. And one night he got a tip off from somebody. Basically, the tip off was that there was a plot against him, and somebody was scheming with the military, and because corruption is rife over there. There was a plan to storm the house, search it, arrest my dad, frame my dad for the murder, lock him up, which would then leave my sister and I to be, we would fall into the custody of relatives. And it was kind of a case of he who controls the children controls the fortune, if that makes any sense. Because with my mum's death, by default, everything my dad owned, businesses, properties, assets, all of that would have gone into our names. So by controlling us, whoever was our guardian would inherit all of that. So my dad gets this tip off, and the person giving him the tip off says, you need to leave now, grab whatever you can and get out of there. And he organised, I think one of his best friends lived across the border in another country. I won't name it just because, the story is... Yeah, anyway, he organised a bush flight. Do you know what like a bush flight is? They're like... So you have like in Africa, you've got like loads of rough landing strips, and you can get like Cessnas and, prop engine planes. And so we took what we could carry, left everything behind, and we got into this plane, flew across the border, went to stay with my uncle. And I think within hours of landing, somebody phoned my uncle and said, I need to speak to Jerry. And he said, my sister's the one that's told me this because I was too young. And she said, Dad, he clutched his chest and it almost looked like he was having a heart attack, because the guy on the phone said, the army are at your house right now. They're looking for you, kind of thing. Where are you? You don't come back. So the tip-off was a credible threat, you know what I mean? And we'd literally narrowly escaped by, I don't know, hours. That makes sense. So yeah, that's like season 1, episode 1 of my junior life. Yeah.
Fucking hell, mate. Yeah, I mean, don't really know where to go from this, mate. So probably best you just pick it up and just tell us what you think is the next relevant point. And obviously, we're really sorry that happened to you, mate. No fucker should go through that.
Yeah, no, I mean, do you know what? I often get people when they hear my story, they're kind of like, how, after what's happened to you, how are you so normal, like so on, but my outlook is nothing happened to me. I survived that incident. What happened to my mum, and I thought, I've got children now, and I'm like, I couldn't imagine what her last moments must have been like, worrying about the 2 little kids hiding under a bed. Like, you'd imagine, going through that, and then the sheer panic. I don't know. But yeah, so from there we left everything. My dad had to start.
Sorry, mate. Sorry to interrupt, mate. Let's talk about your mum a little bit more. Like, you met, obviously, that being one of your first memories, but can you remember your mum? Do you have good memories? And
I don't really have many memories of my mum, unfortunately. The earliest memories I can, in fact, there's one memory I remember going down into her bathroom and she was like waxing her legs. And that was it's a weird thing to remember, but I think that's where she was also found. But the only memory I do have is, for years, I had a recurring nightmare. And it was a dream where I was stood on the side of the road and there was a car driving away from me. And in the rear passenger seat was my mum looking out the rear window at me as the car was just, disappearing over the horizon. And I think maybe in my child's mind, that was just kind of my brain explaining to me that Mum's gone now. You're not going to see her again. Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course, mate. The other thing, like, what kind of impact did this have on you as a kid at this time? Are you able to kind of process what's happened? Are you able to sleep, or are you terrified all the time? Like when and then you're leaving the country, like what is that like for a kid?
It had several impacts. In terms of the physical fear, I was afraid of the dark, terrified of the dark for years. Because obviously what happened was at night. I used to wet the bed every single night up until the age of 14. Like, I had no control over it, and it was really tough because I couldn't do things like sleepovers. I tried everything to stop it, but I just couldn't. Do you know what I mean? One of the biggest things for me was confidence. I lost all my confidence. I couldn't hold a conversation with people. Like, I would mumble a lot. So I'm really trying to be conscious of pronunciating my words here, and so it gets out. But I would mumble. I could never hold eye contact with anybody. And I think one of your previous guests, the Free Power lad, I think he also didn't have his mum around. And I remember he said something that he hit the nail on the head, and it's exactly how I felt. It's like, the impact of not having your mum around is like, you never feel good enough, but you don't know what you don't feel good enough for. So you're kind of always chasing. You're always trying to be good enough, but you don't know what you're trying to be good enough for. Do you know what I mean? When he said that, I was like, fuck me. I was like, that is exactly what I felt. That's what I've dealt with my entire life. And I think for me, that's where the military, things like boxing and the military absolutely changed my life. But yeah, I mean, we can go on to that after. So yeah, do you want me to carry on with where I went next?
Yeah, go ahead, mate.
Yeah, so after that, we kind of lived all over the world. We moved to England. I stayed with my dad was contracting in Saudi, so we ended up living with my siblings. And at this time, they're young adults as well. So I think I can never thank them enough for what they did, because they were like 19, 20, and my dad's off contracting, and they're looking after us little kids, who have been through this crazy trauma. And so, again, I'll always thank them to this day. And my dad come back and got us, and he got a job in Indonesia, 1998, living like kings again, massive house, loads of cars. My dad met my stepmom. He got married to an Indonesian lady. We moved to Saudi. We lived in Saudi. That's another thing. I can't remember what was his name, the other guest that you had. But yeah, lived in Saudi. The similarities were crazy. But that expat life over there, life was great. It was brilliant. So I got to see loads of different cultures. And then my dad, he had I don't know, wasn't it? So we moved back to Indonesia. And I lived in Indonesia for about 5 years. And I went to a local school because we couldn't afford the term to go to an international school. So it's here we've got me and my sister, don't speak a word of Indonesian. And we're in this school. It's just fucking crazy. One thing about that was just over there, the society is built on respect, traditions. You can't call, if there's someone older than you, you wouldn't dare call them by their first name. Do you know what I mean? And the country is so patriotic that the whole national uniform, if you're in primary school, white shirt, red trousers, secondary school, white shirt, blue trousers, everyone. And it was crazy. You go to school in the morning and you have to do block jobs. So you had to go around fucking picking up litter. Picking up litter and sweeping and, and all that shit. And then you sit down and the teacher comes in and everyone has to stand. You have to brace up. It's crazy. This is all of the schools across the country have the same kind of thing. And then you'd sing the national anthem and say a prayer for the president. We say a prayer for the president, the headmaster, and then your parents, and you'd crack on with your day. And it was just crazy experience. I speak Indonesian fluently to this day.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. I'm this black guy that speaks Indonesian. People was like, what? How does that make sense? They call me Blackie Chan. But yeah. So after that, we came to the UK, 2004, and now this is where things got really weird because I've grown up in Indonesia, but I'm mixed race. I'm a black guy, brown, and I come to England and what I noticed is everyone here has people just had certain categories. You had goths, you had the chaps, you had the football hooligans, you had the posh kids, and all this, and then the black people. It was I feel I'm I don't know who to be. How do you? Because in Indonesia, everyone's just everyone. People wear purple trainers and yellow trousers, and no one gives a shit. Do you know what I mean? It's but here it was just adjusting.
What you mean? It's more. It was, even though there was that uniformity in school, as adults and kids, it was more outside the school. There was more individualism.
Yeah. That's it. There was a lot more individualism. People just and again, it's not a massively wealthy country, but people didn't really care. They just kind of cracked on, and it was
right.
Yeah, so coming to England, you've got all these trends and all these things, and I'm how do I be? Who am I supposed to be? And then I don't know. Am I supposed to be? How do black people act here? What am I supposed to be? Because I'm half white, half black, and I'm it was really weird trying to find my feet. So I started school here, and that was a crazy transition because over in Indonesia, discipline is everything, and the teachers could fuck you up by law. Do you know what I mean? It was part of the school. If you didn't do your homework, they would fuck you up. And I got quite a few beatings. But I remember there was this one time I was in the back of class and I'm chatting to my friend, the teacher's at the front. I think she's not listening, and I'm fucking this and that, and everyone goes quiet. And I think, why is everyone going quiet? I turn my head to face my front, and I just see this fucking. Blackboards they used to have people would. Yeah, I just see this object coming at me. I'm like, shit. I went my head to the side, and it goes smack bang into the forehead of this girl behind me. She starts screaming, and the teacher's a woman. She's like, get to the front. Boom. She's fucking battering me with this ruler. I was like, see what you made me do? And the ruler snapped. And I was just like, fucking hell. But yeah, so when I came to England, school was very different. The first lesson I ever had, one of the kids got sent out for slapping the teacher, and I was like, what the fuck is this? You know what I mean? This is crazy, Yeah, and that's where I think I met my best friend, my oldest friend. I still talk to him to this day. Cully, he lives down the road from me, 20 years of friendship. But we were the only two coloured people in our school at that time, and we went through hell in that school. It was just, when I say bullying, it was, I'm not going to say, the N-word, you're an N-word this, N-word that, black bastard, things like that, people would make monkey noises, and it was just horrendous. It was really, really bad. And for someone that didn't have confidence anyway, me and my best friend, we kind of banded together. And I remember days like if he wasn't going to school, I'd be like, fuck, what am I going to do now? How am I going to get through the day? Do you know what I mean? Because when we were together, we were kind of safe. And I would I'd eat my lunch like in the toilets or whatever, because I knew people would be looking to fuck with me, basically. And I always feel when people talk about their schooling, and I just think like I'm so not jealous, but I wish I could have enjoyed school, but it really was really rough. And it only took a turn when basically I wanted to start training for the army. I didn't know how to exercise. I didn't know what to do. So my brother says to me, why don't you go to a boxing gym? And I went to my local boxing gym. So I went to the recruiting office first. I wanted to go into Harrage.
So where's this come from then, mate? Where's this army thing crept up from? This, I want to go into the army. When was the first, can you remember the first time that hit you?
Yeah. I've always wanted to. And it's all I've ever wanted to do. With my dad being in the RAF, I used to look up to him about that. So I think initially I actually wanted to be a pilot. But I think that's
standard.
Yeah. I wanted to. I hadn't even seen Top Gun. I don't know. I just wanted to be a pilot. You know what I mean? But I kind of realised that I would never be smart enough. I think I might still do it one day, if I get enough money. But yeah, I always wanted to do it. It's, nothing could have been clearer in my mind. Do you know what I mean? I think I'm quite fortunate to have had that. And that was my driving force, but I was really overweight back then. So not only am I getting bullied for my skin colour, they're also for my weight as well. So I'm like, Jesus Christ.
Going for the full bingo card, man.
Yeah, literally. Just give me a wheelchair at this point. We're done with it, don't we? So it all changed. Yeah, I went to the recruiting office. This is back in the day when there were soldiers in there. And he was like, not being funny, mate. Just looking at you, you're not going to pass your assessment. You need to lose some weight, fella. And I was like, all right, sound. So I left and I started boxing training, One Nation Gym in Derby, and that place changed my life. So massive shout out to those people. Clifton Mitchell founded it, and one of the coaches was a Royal Marine. He was an old guy, really old. He served in like the 60s or whatever. But it was wicked. It taught me, again, it was discipline. I gained confidence, and it was like, when I used to get picked on, and I'd try and talk about it, people were like, well, just fight back. And I thought, well, I don't know how to do that. How do I fight back? What do I do? Like, how do I throw a punch? Do you know what I mean? And it was daunting. But when I started boxing, it's again, it's all about respect, discipline. You come into the gym, if you're late, you fuck off back home. Do you know what I mean? You arrive on time or you don't train. The rules on the wall were simple, like no hands in pockets, like, no leaning on the ropes. And if you get caught breaking those rules, everyone else will be doing press-ups while you have to stand there. Do you know what I mean? So it was like, yeah, it was good grounding. And then once I started doing that, my best friend as well, he started fighting, learning how to fight. And there was a couple of instances, and yeah, we started, not to sound big-headed, we started battering people that were fucking with us. You know what I mean? And it didn't take long before people stopped messing with us. You know what I mean? The message was clear. Because there was this one time, for me, the switch was, I was sat eating my lunch, and there was this guy who used to mess with me every day. He had a fucking stick, and he's poking me, making monkey noises, poking me, trying to get me to react. And I just sat there quietly, and he poked me, and then he turned his head, and I kind of sprung up. I grabbed him because I was doing Muay Thai. I needed him a couple of times and all that. And then he fell on the floor. And this random lad out of nowhere ran up and kicked him in the head like he was taking a penalty kick. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, fucking up. Why'd you do that? But yeah, from there, it was just really funny. So before I move on to the next, I'll just say one story. Me and my friend Cully, we became more other diverse people started coming into school, and we almost became like the fucking diversity Avengers. Do you know what I mean? Protecting the weak. Yeah. And there was this one time, this kid came up to me. There was this girl, black girl. I'll call her Jay just to kind of protect her, her name. Someone called her the N-word, right? And this kid came looking for me and Colleen. He was like, oh, mate, this has just happened. This kid said this to Jay. And I was like, right. We're like, let's go and find him to make him apologize, basically, And it was like something out of an American film, when like a massive crowd follows people. It's like we're walking down the hall and there's 2 people. We go outside, there's 10. And then there was like 35 people all like, whoa, look at this. It's going to start. So this guy was like evading us. And we finally caught up with him and we were like, what did you say? He's like, I didn't say anything. I was like, right, say it to me. And he was like, you wouldn't. So I was like, go ahead and say sorry. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, it was just, that was school for me. Yeah.
And when was it then that you actually kind of applied for? You actually applied for the army and what was the experience like when you started at Harrogate?
So, so I applied in 2007. I missed out on Harrogate because, so basically, I wanted to join the infantry. So I'll explain my situation. I'm not infantry. I was in the Royal Signals. I was a radio operator, but more specifically, I was a parachute signaller. So I did P Company. I was paratrained. I served in the brigade. So that's kind of how I see my identity. I wanted to join the infantry, and my local regiment was the Sherwood Foresters, which is now Mercians, I think. But my dad, he wouldn't sign my consent form. He said, you need to join a corps, get yourself a trade. He's like, trust me, you'll thank me in years to come. And I was like, right, okay, well, what do I do now? Do I wait till I'm 18 and just go infantry, or do I just join now and then see how I get on? So, I went through the process. But Royal Signals, CS. So basically, I said to the recruiter, I was like, this is a situation. I want to do something that can be as close to doing what the infantry do as possible. And he was like, right, fella, got just the fucking thing for you. You play Call of Duty? And I was like, yeah, of course I do. He's like, that guy with the radio, with the antenna in the thick of it, shouting down the microphone. He's like, that'll be you, fella, join the Royal Signals. I was like, fuck. Like, got a hard on. I was like, yeah, man, that sounds brilliant. Like, fucking, so he sold the dream. But you had to have 5 GCSEs at quite a high level. And so I had to do a year of night school to go back because I failed maths. And I got my qualification, and then I signed the Oath of Allegiance, started basic training in 2008. I went to Beret. That was mad. It was a real experience. I was the youngest in the platoon, in the troop. And so that was the joining process.
Okay, so you did have a good, bit of a shit time in school, bullied, etc. How do you then find the army environment, and particularly the training army environment, where I'm not going to say everyone's getting bullied, but you are certainly at this point all in it together?
Yeah. I think the army was what really made me, because I found that, being a bit of a misfit, not really fitting in, I found my purpose in the army. I found my family. Do you know what I mean? What I loved about the army is, and I say it to this day, in the outside, everyone can just blag nowadays. People can make an Instagram profile. You can pretend to be whoever the fuck you want, right? But in the military, the only thing that matters is results. Do you know what I mean? You can't, if you earn a badge, you've earned that badge. Do you know what I mean? You can't. You're not going to walk around with the SAS beret if you didn't earn it. Do you know what I mean? Someone will fill you in, and it's like, I just found that. I absolutely loved basic training. I think I was a bit too keen at times, but then I was only 17, so I was like, sometimes I did some really cringe shit. Now, I did say before.
Go on, let's hear it. What did you
do? So I've got loads. I did say, do you know what? Coming on this podcast, I really wanted to, go through some of the funny stuff. So the first thing I did, that's super cringe, was, this is me. So we were out on our first exercise in the field, right? And a week-long exercise. For anyone that's not military, when we say exercise, we don't mean sit-ups and press-ups. We're out in the field training. So we're learning fire and maneuver, and we break down to do individual... sorry. That's right. So we break down to do individual fire and maneuver. There's me and my oppo, and we're going through this wooded area. We come into contacts. I thought we're returning fire, bag, pedal, move, and all that, And then for some reason, we only had one magazine. So we're bounding forward. I'm laying down some fire, and I'm like, all of a sudden it's quiet. I'm like, why the fuck aren't you shooting? And he didn't say he's out of rounds. And I'm like, right, okay, he's out of rounds. So I'm going to up my fucking rate of fire to cover him. And then my rifle goes quick as well. And, sorry. I don't know why I thought this, but the DS had just gone quiet. He was just standing there. No one was doing anything. The enemy was still shooting. There was this massive pause. I'm like, what the fuck do we do now? Do you know what I mean? And I thought, I know what I'll do. I decided I was going to fucking sacrifice my pretend life to help my oppo get away. I readied myself, and I decided I'm going to charge the fucking position, right? So I stand up and I'm like, I'm running at this, sprinting at this position, screaming, like this, right? Bayonet charging with a fucking BFA. And then as I'm closing in, I hear my instructor. He, when they shout, "Stop, stop, stop!" He's like, "Stop!" And then he's laughing at the same time. He's like, "Stop!" And he's like, "Harrage, fucking come over here now." And he's like, "What the fuck was that?" And he couldn't get his words out because he was laughing. And he was like, "Right." And I was like, I was sat down and I was looking around and I could see him talking to my section commander. I thought, "Oh yeah, I've done them proud." And they're both looking at me and they're shaking. Like tears are coming out their eyes. There was fucking, oh mate, yeah, that was the yeah, that was that.
Should have had the military cross out of that, mate.
Yeah. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. They kept telling
You know what, though, mate? I think I'm going to stand up for you, mate. I think that's good instincts.
Yeah. Fucking take one for the team. Because they kept saying to us all the time, they're like, more aggression, more speed, but they'll never say how. And I'm like, whoa, what do I do? I'm like, this is my moment. I'm like, don't worry, mate, I've got your back. What a fucking weirdo. But yeah, oh man. So yeah, that was that. Yeah, I absolutely loved it. I love basic training. I thought it was fucking great, man. And I don't know, this story might be a bit controversial. Nothing happened. I must start off by saying this. So we're a group of lads in a 10-man room, and I don't know why they thought this would be a good idea. Back in the day, in those days, men and women, we were segregated. Now they've got mixed platoons, okay? And back then, you weren't allowed to speak to the women. If you were caught speaking to one of the women, you might get, let's say you'd get kicked out and all that. For some reason, they decided our blocks run parallel to the women's block, right? So that means they can look into our rooms, and we can look into their rooms and all that. And so the girls opposite us, like we had a kind of good relationship with them. We'd always, like in the night, would always do stupid, and again, even more cringe shit like dance battles and ridiculous stuff. But one night we had been away for a week, and I think they got used to us not being there, because all of our floor was lights off, and every night, you're talking about light discipline here. You'd be able to see whatever you could see from miles away. So they would always have their curtains closed, and so would we. So we come in off exercise. I open the troop room door, and the room is dark, right? And then some of the lads are all like crouching by this window. And I look over, so the girls' block, they had their windows open and the lights were on, so you could see everything. By the way, I must say, you couldn't see anything. They were just like going about their business. And I go to turn the light on, so I was like, "No, don't turn the fucking light on." He's like, "Wait, I don't know what the fuck's going on." But the guy behind me comes in, flicks the light on, and as the light comes on in our room, all of them, almost like a horror film, their heads like meerkats, flick towards our room. They could see all these little heads. And the lads rolled over. And we all I remember we all got into bed and pretended we were asleep in case of fucking out. They thought we were going to get kicked out. Yeah.
So, mate, let me ask you then. Obviously in school you got a lot of discrimination based on your colour of your skin. What was it like in training? Was there any of that?
In training, I'd say there was just casual banter. I think some of the Commonwealth guys, there were a couple of incidences where one of the Kenyan guys, someone said something, but I think I did experience serious racism though. That was on the PTI course, which absolutely devastated me. But when we get onto that, I'll talk about it. But no, by and large, nothing. I didn't have anything like that. The only one thing I would say was, the correlation between people of African or Caribbean descent. Generally people think you can't swim, so we did the swim test, and I remember they were like, right, anyone that's a weak swimmer, go and stand over that side. The rest of you stand this side. And I stood over with people that could swim, and like they all kind of turned around looking at me as if like, I was like, "What the fuck are you looking at?" I was like, "How good swimming this one, bastard." But yeah, that was that.
So it's more a case of just the same as ever, just everyone's getting flack.
Everyone's getting, yeah.
It wasn't like actual hate.
No, it was just stupid stuff. People would say, banterful stuff. They had no malicious, nothing like that. I really didn't experience any of that.
We expected it. Like, considering you'd had it in school in Britain, like that had been your British experience up to that point. Were you expecting it in the army?
Not at all. Absolutely not.
Why was that? Why considering you'd had that through, your kind of the years that your dad in Britain at school, why did you think the army would be different?
Because I guess what my dad would always say about my dad would always talk about the strong brotherhood and the ethos in the military, and how, and I mean, you probably know, it's kind of, you stand up for each other. Do you know what I mean? You kind of, you look after the weak. You don't tolerate, and that's one of the things that was made very clear to me as well during the recruitment process. It's like, we do not tolerate bullies. We do not tolerate any of that kind of shit, And he said, my instructor was like, if any of that happens, the lads will sort it out. That's why I didn't expect any of that. And I didn't get any of that. It was, I had a great experience in basic, because I was doing all the shit I wanted to do, doing infantry stuff, learning to be a soldier. And then we passed out. So passed out of basic, and then for anyone that does a trade, engineers, REME, signals, medic, whatever, you do phase 2 training. I think infantry, you go on to your combined infantry course, but we have to go to, so for signals, it was a 6-month course to become a radio operator, and it's down in Blandford, Royal School of Signals, which is out in the middle of nowhere. So I got there, and I got to be honest, I really didn't enjoy it. I got there and I was like, this is not at all what I thought I'd be doing. Phase 2 is nice because it's a bit more relaxed, but we're like, you learn how to do like fucking touch typing. You know what I mean? You have to, you sit in the classroom with a computer, and then they put a wooden box over your hands, and you have to type without looking, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. I was like, this doesn't sound like what.
Sounds like that bit on June, mate, where you got to put your hand in the box.
yeah. I was like, fucking hell, this doesn't at all sound anything like what the recruiter said. And I'm thinking, this is...
No.
I was like, where's the bit where I'm fucking running around with the radio, right? And it's like, so you learn, my course specifically, you learn voice procedure, which obviously later on came in massively handy. And that's how you speak on the radio, call signs, how you handle traffic, practicing log in the information. Because one thing that I think people don't realize, when you're on the radios, let's say you're out on tour, you have a logbook, and everything that's said over the radio, over the net, has to be logged and written down for evidence and legal purposes. So that's one thing you learn. You learn antennas and propagation, how to put antennas up and all that, how to run the radios, how to fill them, how to operate them, all of that kind of stuff. When you go out in the field and you do a few field exercises. But yeah, you get like an NVQ out of it. So, and that NVQ has allowed me to get the job that I'm in now. I live a pretty comfortable life. Thank God, you know what I mean? I've not had to sell the big issue or do anything crazy like that, because of that kind of qualification. So yeah, it was all in all, I'm glad I did it. I learned a hell of a lot. But I think if I could do my time over again, I would have paid a lot more attention. I think because I was young and disappointed, I just thought, I can't be asked on this. Yeah, I was like, I'm not even listening. I'm like, I should be listening to this, but I can't be bothered. I'm not interested in this subject. But I think I was quite despondent at this point, and I thought, I don't know if I want to carry on. But then I saw, so we had a NAFI, and near the NAFI, you've got this big open square where we'd all kind of congregate in between lessons. And these two blokes were walking across the square, and like, we clocked them straight away, and they were so different to anyone I'd ever seen. They were like, they had different jackets on. Everyone was watching them. Do you know, like, it was just instant respect. And so they were airborne, paratrained. They had Maroon berets on. Their berets were shaped. Both of their berets were shaped the same, but completely different to anyone else's. If you know what I'm saying, like the Harrage
flat cap style.
Yeah. But they really stood out. So they had these parasmocks on and pattern 58 belts and jungle boots, and they just looked like they looked part of the shit, right? And they had their wings on their arms. And I remember thinking, I'm like, whatever they are, that's what I want to be. Like, I want to be like that. And I went up to them and spoke to them, and it's just kind of like, that's the funny thing actually, because I ended up going to that unit, and those guys were in my troop, and they used to take the piss out of me because I was like, "Excuse me, Corporal, what regiment are you from?" And so they explained, and they said that they were from 216 Parachute Signal Squadron, and that is the squadron that provides communications for Scene Air Assault Brigade, and it's a para squadron. And I think that really kind of focused my mind, because I thought, for me, growing up my whole life, I felt like I'd always been counted out. I'd always been, underestimated, never really taken seriously, if that makes sense. And obviously my confidence with what happened to my mom was a massive issue for me. And I thought, well, it was in that moment that I saw that, and I thought, like, if I go and do this, no one's ever going to be able to doubt me again, because, you know, when I learned about how hard P Company is and all that, it really was something that I thought, I really want to do this. And yeah, I don't know if that kind of makes sense. It was just, I want to do this to prove to myself, but also I want to do it for my confidence so that other people can't doubt me, if that makes sense, you know, because I was never really a confrontational person, and I've just thought, having been discriminated against for your race and all that kind of stuff, you know, it was really crap. I remember we was on a battlefield tour, and I seen this, you know, these lads who weren't from our platoon, they were wearing Gore-Tex jackets. So I went up, one of them was Fijian, and I was like, all right, mate, where are you guys from? He's like, oh, we're from Kitty. And he said, what about you? And I was like, oh, I'm from Blufford. And he turned to his mate, he's like, yeah, don't talk to them, he's a fucking remf. I was like, oh, what? A remf? I'd never heard that word before. I was like, what the fuck does that mean? And then someone told me, rear echelon motherfucker. And I was like, mate, I'm being bloody crowed by a recruit here. Do you know what I mean? I thought, you know. So, yeah. And not long after that, I passed my course, and I put in for my preferences. And then, yeah, I put down 216 as my first posting, and I got it. Yeah. And I began my kind of real army career, if that makes sense, in the brigade.
So 216 being a para signal squadron?
Yeah. Yeah, that's, so you got 16 Air Assault Brigade, 2 and 3 para, and then you've got the other infantry battalions. I think the Gurkhas there now. It was Royal Irish, and then 2 Scots. And then obviously you've got all the supporting arms that support that. The artillery, 7 RHA, 2-3 engineers, 216 signal squadron, the REME, LAD and all that. And yeah, so I put in my posting order. I got Colchester. It was wicked. I turned up there. Everyone was on rear party because the lads were in Harrage 2008. So we arrived on rear party, and like, yeah, it was a real kind of what's the word? It was a real eye opener for me, because like the ethos in the brigade is, the standard in the ethos is quite high, and it's like, it's very apparent when you get there that like people here are quite serious. Do you know what I mean? And it's, they take the kind of the airborne brotherhood and the traditions and all of those kind of things really seriously. The fitness was absolutely fucking nails, man. I remember I got there and I was always like hanging out at the back, and people would, you know, you get the Forces running at the back, and they'd be like, right, when I say the word go, you're going to catch up with the squad. I'm like 100 meters away from the squad. He's like, stand by, go. And he's like, why aren't you moving? I'm like, I can't, because I'm like, I was so fucked, right? But yeah, it was. I felt a sense of belonging there. And the way it is over there, the kind of lifestyle is you work really hard. The phys is really hard, but then everyone you know plays really hard. Do you know what I mean? There's so many funny stories of my time there. But when I arrived, we had 3 different troops, 3 different radio troops. I got put into one of the troops, and they encourage you to go and do pre-para as soon as possible. Pre-para is the beat-up course for P Company. I went on it, pre-para the first time. So with pre-para, they do a centralized brigade course where everybody in the brigade that is applying for P Company has to come together and do this, do the pre-para course. I went on it the first time. I failed it first time, and I had to go back again. But that was a mad experience, because it's like you got 180 people on the parade square, and you're looking around and you're thinking, I'm like, oh, you've got all these people, like all the engineers and the artillery lads, massive. Do you know what I mean? You're thinking, I don't look like that. I'm not going to be able to pass. But it was just mind over matter, really. We went to, you do pre-para in Aldershot and Pirbright. And I thought pre-para was much, in my opinion, was a lot harder than actual P Company. The first time round I went there, we went through, I got injured on the log race at the end of pre-para, and I went up to Catterick. Now, when you go up to Catterick, the P Company staff are very different. They're all, I think they're mainly para-reg. and they don't really shout at you. They don't really kind of give you any guidance on how you're doing. You're literally just there to be assessed. And on the first day, we did the CFT, and the airborne CFT was at 8 miles an hour 30, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's pretty fast anyway, and it's over the ground in Catterick. And then you do the 1.5 miles in Webbing over undulating terrain. The pass mark was 9:30, and we're going along, and I'm literally fucking blowing up my ass. I can see the finish line, and he's like, no, I didn't know what the time was, and he's counting people, and he's like 9:30, 9:31, and I'm like, oh shit, I don't know. So they come along the line, as you know, you're PTR, wasn't it? When you come across the line and you give people their times, and it's like 9:28, 9:29, and it gets to me, and he's like 9:31, and I'm like, oh my days. I felt like my whole world was crashing down. I thought, I've just gone through all of that for nothing. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, I was devastated. I drove back down to Colchester, and I couldn't even cry on the drive down because my mate Martin didn't have a car, and he failed as well, and he needed a lift. So we were both fucking failures returning back to the unit. But I went back, and yeah, the next time round I smashed it out. And I got to the end. I was on the parade square. And P Company's a funny one because you don't ever know how well you've done, and it is pretty brutal. I'll say that much. It's definitely a passable course, but fucking yeah, it's unbelievably hard. I think it's, I don't know. You just have to have grit as well. Like being physically fit enough to do it and being prepared is just one factor. It's just getting up every morning when your back is like you've got no skin on your back and you blisters on your heels have turned into scars and all that, and it's just like you just got to keep going. And when you get to the end on the parade square, you have your number and you have to stand at ease, and then they call your number and they're like number 13, and they'll say pass or fail, and if you fail, you've got to like come to attention and then march around to the back of the squad and face the other way like you're some kind of peasant.
Like, brutal.
Yeah. And it was like, number 61. It's like, sir, pass. And I was like, oh, thank fuck for that. But you could hear the other lads when they get the number, like, number 13, fail. And then they just stand there like, what? And it was like, number 13, sir. You have to fucking march off. And we're like, whoo, unlucky, man. Yeah.
So what was the difference between the first time you went and the second? Like, what was the difference in your mindset or preparation?
I think that the second time around, I knew what to expect, and I prepared for it a lot better. And it's not really just about smashing yourself, because if you overtrain, you'll probably end up kind of going over that, that 6-week kind of peak when once you cross that threshold, you start to be prone to injuries. But this time, one of the lads, he's now he's 2 SAS now. He was one of the PTRs, and he was literally like, let's just keep it simple. We're going to do hill reps, and we would run 1.5 miles. Jog 1.5 miles to this hill, do 10 hill reps at a steady pace, and then jog back. And it was like 3 or 4 times a week. And obviously the squadron PT as well was like, I don't know, when you've got tabbing, right? Normal tabbing, and then you've got airborne tabbing, and airborne tabbing is super fast. So yeah, I think I prepared a lot better for it. And I knew what to expect, which was almost like a double-edged sword, because it's like, you're like, oh my God, I'm going to have to, I know what's coming kind of thing. It's almost like if you've done 2 tours, you know what I mean? You know what you're walking into. So, I managed to do that, and yeah, it was brilliant. It was a feeling like no other. And so in the brigade as well, you've got traditions. Do you know what I mean? I think the Harrage, they've got loads of their own kind of, their own traditions and all their things that they do. But, we have our own proud history. And I think one of the funniest ones was, I don't think any of the other units did it, but 7RHA, the Royal Horse Artillery does. They call themselves 7 Para. Big up the 7. In the cookhouse, you had juice, and you had orange juice, cordial, and then you had like strawberry juice or whatever, mixed berry, but it looked maroon, so they used to call it maroon juice. And it's like, if you have past B company, you're not allowed to drink. You're not allowed to drink. Like, I was like, I thought, no way, there's no way they actually do this. And I saw a full screen walk up to this lad and fucking slap the glass out. I was like, the fuck are you doing drinking maroon juice? You can't. Oh, it was really funny. But yeah, passed the course, and it was like when you come back to the garages, I felt my life became a hell of a lot easier because you've got that. It wasn't like a malicious divide, but there was definitely a bit of a divide. You know, if you pass the course and then versus if you haven't, your life just became a bit easier. And then after that, obviously you can go and sign out your parasmock. You're allowed to wear like scrim on your helmet and all that kind of shit. So you have all these little perks that just make you feel a little bit better about yourself, And then I went to Bryce Norton the following year, but at that time there was a massive queue for the jumps course because all the airframers were like in Iraq and Afghanistan on the C-130s, and me and my mate caught a lucky break. We kind of jumped the queue like just in time. And yeah, you go to Bryce and you do your ground training. You learn how to pack your parachute, check your kit, all of those kind of things, all of the drills that you need to do. And did the 5 jumps. I was scared of heights back then as well, but I think, it's a weird one, but it's like the pain of P Company was enough to remove the fear of heights. And it was just, I remember getting on the back of the plane, sitting there, and then I was the first in the stick for 2 of my jumps, and I'm like, oh my God, you stand up, you get to the door, and the RAF guy was like, don't look down, fella, and he opens the door, and I'm like, fucking hell, I can see the M40. He was like, fuck it, Jesus Christ, and the wind smashing you in the face, and then it's like, the red light goes on, he's like, red on, and then you poof, go, and then you fucking 2 feet out, jump out, you enter the slipstream, and you're supposed to count. You're supposed to go 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, check canopy, and you look up to make sure your canopy has a malfunction. I started counting, and I was just like, oh, fucking hell. I started yelling. And when I landed, one of the drop zone commander, he was like, who the fuck was that whooping and hollering? He's like, this is the fucking military course. I'm like, sorry, sir. Me. Yeah, so that was that.
So, mate, the lads in the squadron who haven't done P Company, is it after a matter of, if you have a couple of cracks and you don't pass, you get sent to another squadron? Does everyone there eventually need to be? Do you get like a couple of cracks, and if you made it, you stay, and if you don't, you move on, or is there, is there some people serving in there who never end up doing the jumps course?
No. No, it's very much. It's not an absolute requirement because there just won't be enough people to fill the pits. It's a preferential thing. It's up to you. You can volunteer to do it, but you are strongly advised to give it a crack. But I will say the squadron's atmosphere was great. There was no real kind of discrimination. It was just, we were all in it together. So yeah, there were loads of people that didn't do it. You don't need to do the course, but there are certain roles that need to be filled that have to be filled by people who are power trained, like the power attack, which is when you go, and if the brigade ever jumped into combat, the brigade commander would need an airborne deployable radio detachment that would jump with him and do that kind of stuff. And we also, the way we operate, we'd get split down and attached to infantry units. So you'd get put into teams of 6, and you'd go to a battalion. And going to 2 and 3 para, you had to be para trained to go and work with them. Makes sense. It's a parachute regiment. Do you know what I mean? And then the other battalions, like the Royal Irish or the air assault infantry battalions, could be filled by anyone. But I must say, I absolutely loved my time there. It was such a good crack because the caliber of people, not just in my squadron but in the brigade, everyone there just really kind of had something about them. And I don't mean any shade on other normal units, but it was just, yeah, there was just eagerness. Do you know what I mean? And also the guys that were there, they'd all done several tours, Iraq, Harrage in 2006, and those days, as you know, were absolutely hectic. Do you know what I mean? So when our squadron was brilliant at doing mill skills, so everyone had to be at a really good standard, and that would obviously come into play when I deployed in 2010. And I'm glad that it was that way. Do you know what I mean?
So talk us through that then, mate. When did you know that you're going? How did you feel about it? And then where did you end up? So the guys came back from Harrage 2008, the whole brigade. And then after a period, we started, doing our
we got orders for Herrick 13, which was 2010, and we began. We started doing the build-up training, pre-deployment exercises, all that kind of stuff, making sure, it's about 18 months, I think it was, long process. And that build-up for us was quite poignant because all of the force crews, section commanders, all of them had just come back from Herrick 8. So everything that they were saying, like, it had weight to it, if that makes sense, because it's like we've seen, you don't know what you're walking into, so it was a case of paying attention, and it was a lot easier to listen to people who have been to war and they know what they're talking about. We started the build-up training, getting spun up, and then you get assigned your jobs for the tour. And I was put into an RLD, which is a rear link detachment, and what that is basically a 6-man team of signalers. You have a sergeant who's the admin, a force crew who assists the sergeant, and then you've got 4 junior signalers who that team will then get, it's around 6 to 10, and that team will get assigned to an infantry battalion, and that's who you're going to work with on the tour, basically. And that further breaks down into each company of that battalion will have one or two Royal Signals attachments to act as your subject matter expert, and who will kind of just, we have to keep that link open, hence the name Rear Link. So I was assigned to 2 Scots. We did all of our pre-deployment training with 2 Scots. We got to know everyone, which 2 Scots was quite funny because it's quite, the Scottish accent is quite thick in it. It's quite. And then what was funny is there were loads of Fijians in 2 Scots as well, but they had like Fijian Scottish accents, which always kind of spun me out. It was really funny. I remember we were training in Thetford and we were in this makeshift fob, and I was like in the scoff queue. And there was a bottle of water and everyone was washing their hands, and I heard someone go, "Hey, you, wash your fucking horns." And I'm like, "What's that?" I look around and Sergeant Major, he's looking at me. He's like, "Wash your horns." And this Fijian guy's like, "Hey, bro, you need to wash your hands." I was like, "Oh, shit." I was like, "Is that what he's saying?" So I'm like, "Wash your hands." But yeah, funnily enough, right before we got ready to deploy, for some reason, the 2 Scots mission got cancelled. We got disbanded. The RLD got disbanded. So I'm like, right, what the fuck do we do now? So we reformed, and then I was told I was going with A Company 1 Royal Irish. So so they formed an RLD for the Royal Irish Regiment, and I went with A Company 1st Battalion. And that was, I don't think we did any training with them, and we didn't I deployed, I didn't even know any of the personalities. You mate Gaz, the Remy guy, when he said similarly, he said, you turn up and you don't know any of these people, and the difference is quite stark. But it was exactly that's exactly what we went into. So that's right before we deployed. But during that period, I think it was there were some funny things that happened. My mate, I think my mate Ibo, he's listened to this. One thing I will say about the squadron is that it was just full of really funny guys. That people were mad. One of my close mates, people are just off their edge. You know what I mean? One of my close mates, he had this scar on his arm, right? And I looked at him and I was like, "Bro, like, what's that scar? Where did you get that scar?" And he was like, "Oh, whoa." He was like, "Me and my mate, we were pissed in the block." He was like, he's like, "We were having a knife fight and he got me." I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, mate, we was having a knife fight." And I'm like, "You fucking a knife fight? Imagine that, just fucking, mate, let's have a fucking knife fight. Who does that?" But it was just so matter of fact. And then what I loved about that place as well was it was just the banter, and I was always someone that would laugh at anything. Do you know what I mean? It's like, even to this day, I laugh at people when they fall over. Obviously, I'll come and make sure you're all right. Just let me catch my breath kind of thing. But we were on this training course before we went, and I'm going to apologize now. I'm really sorry for laughing at this. But I wasn't laughing at the person. I was laughing at the environment. So this guy had an impairment that was out of his control and couldn't. It was like a tick, and he's given a briefing, and it kind of, I see this tick, and I'm like, the child in me is coming. I could feel the child in me rising. I saw it, and I'm like, don't fucking, don't laugh. That's out of order. Don't laugh. And I look over to my right, and I can see my mate Ibro. And problem with him is when I started laughing, he would laugh. His laugh made me laugh, and my laugh made him laugh. So we would literally just be in this cycle. And I'm like, right, okay, if I see that, if this happens again, I can't look to my right. And I'm watching the guy, and he goes, oh, like that. And I see it, and I'm just like, oh my God. So I'm bent forward. I'm like, trying not to laugh. And I looked over to my right, and he's looking at me at the same. We locked eyes, and we were just fucking, I was doubled over crying. Like I couldn't breathe, but I was so scared of being seen because I thought I'm going to get fucking battered here. But yeah, it was just shit like that. I'll tell you one more story about Colin before we go on to the tour. So I had like an airsoft rifle, an M16. I don't know why I bought that, but
what, mate? You had an airsoft rifle just for,
just I don't know why. Yeah, just in the block. So bloody hell. Your last guest, he said, people, the sniper lads used to have air rifles and used to shoot. Yeah. It was just one of those things. I bought it, and we weren't allowed to have stuff like that in the block. So I used to fucking, like I was, I don't know, Pablo Escobar hiding some gear. As I took it apart and hid it on the bed. And one night, so I hear a banging on my door, and I'm like, I open it, and it's one of the fall screws. And this fall screw, I don't know if I should name him. I'm not asked his permission, but he was like a big kid. He was always fucking up to something, but he would never get up to something on his own. So he was always trying to rope people in. And he's like, grab your fucking air rifle, your rifle, come upstairs. So I'm like, I run upstairs, we get into the block, and we're in the common room with the window open. And again, light discipline. It's nighttime, right? And they're like, get down, crouch down. And I'm by the window. And he's like, look down. So we look down into this room, and we can see this guy. He's got his curtains open and his lights on at night. And he's sat at his desk topless. And he's having a wank. And he's having a wank, right? And like, this was the craziest thing. I'm like, what the fuck is this guy doing? And the way he was moving, I'm like, I've never seen anyone wank like that. Nope, not that I fucking, not that I watch people. But he was so weird. He was like thrashing himself. And he was like, right, Chris, I've said his name now. Chris was like, oh, do you reckon you can make that shot? And I'm like, right, I'll try. So the window was slanted, and I aimed, and I fucking boom, I got him. And we watched the fucking the bullet hit him in the side of the head. He just stopped like a fucking, I don't know, like a possum, almost like play dead. He stayed completely still. Didn't even look around, and he just carried on. We did this about 3 or 4 times until he closed his window. Oh my God! I hope I don't get fucking find me now. Fucking
yeah, that's it, mate.
Yeah. But yeah. I've got one. Do you mind if I tell one more story?
You go for it, mate. It's your platform, mate. Go for it.
Yeah. So the last one I would say is we were all coming in off the piss, and 7 RHA. Obviously they're the artillery, and at all of their headquarters on the camp, they all, for some reason, they'd all have like, like the spoils of war from previous conflicts. They'd have like a cannon or a fucking car or something, and ours was really shit. Actually, it was like a small little Iraqi anti-aircraft gun. It was like a little wooden seat. It was tiny. I always think, why the fuck have we got that? That looks stupid. Like, what's the point in that? But the artillery, they had a, I think it was 75mm howitzer, the airborne portable ones, and it's like for anyone non-military, it's like a small cannon. It's not quite a gun, but yeah, it had 2 big wheels, a towing eye, and we're walking past their HQ. We've been out in town. It's 2 a.m. We're all fucking hammered, and Chris, again, the full screw who should know better. He's like, he walks over. He's like, lads, it's fucking unlocked. Normally, they're always chained down or they're wheeled in at night for this exact fucking reason. So he's like, right. He's like, the gun's fucking unlocked. And he's like, right, everyone get around the fucking gun. And he's like, stand by, go. And we started wheeling this fucking gun down the road. And like, I think we were heading for our SHQ. So we like stole this gun. And at the top of the road, we turned around, and the MPGS, you see their white truck. Their white truck was turning down, coming after us. And we're like, fucking hell, faster. And then Chris trips up. and he gets run over by the gun. And we're like, fuck, I think he's dead. Keep going. So we get all the way to our SHQ, and we fucking parked it in the disabled bay, and everyone fucking scattered into the block. And the next morning, I think we was on our RSM was on show parade. Like, everyone out the fucking block. Who knows anything about this? And we're all like, nope, be quiet. And you've got Chris with fucking tire marks on him. But yeah, that was like, you know what? I feel these stories are just when I was reminiscing and thinking about all this stuff, it just really cracked me up, man. But yeah, that was that. That's right before we deployed.
And when did you deploy, mate? What can you remember what month it was and what Harrage?
Yeah, so it was Harrage 13, and it was 2010. I think it was September 2010. Yeah. Do you want me to go into the
Tell us about your war stories, mate.
Yeah, man. All right. Yeah. So yeah, I was sent to A Company, 1 Royal Irish, and we were assigned to a PB in Nade Ali, Helmand.
And sorry to interrupt, did you get with them before you left, or did you meet them out on the ground?
I met them there, out on the ground. There.
Really?
Yeah. It was really weird, isn't it? So we get our assignment, and we land in Bastion, and yeah, that's an experience in itself, isn't it? That's bloody crazy. One of my mates that had been before were like, yeah, they were just kind of solemn and just fucking, whatever. But that's me. I'm like, oh my God, I'm well excited. And like the ramp of the C-17 comes down, and it's like something out of one of them Vietnam War movies where you're walking down the ramp and there's all these guys all tired and fucking like they're at the end of their tour, and you're looking at them and thinking, oh, what's going on here? So yeah, we did our acclimatization in Bastion. That was mental, like, as well. Like, Bastion was enormous. Do you know what I mean? And it's like they had internet. There was a fucking KFC there when I was there, which with me being black, I love me some fried chicken. But I was like, let's go. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, this is nice. But yeah, so I got my orders, and we did all of that stuff, and then we were put in a holding tent to wait for our flights into theatre, and then I got my flight, went to the flight line, we went down to Lashkargah, and then it was on the helipad in Lashkargah. We were stood around waiting for a Sea King, and this Sea King turns up, gets in. I've never been in a helicopter. I don't really know what to do. I'm just kind of like following people. No one explained anything. That's the one thing that got me. Like, no one said anything. They just assumed you knew. So I get in, I get on the helicopter, and I'm sat there. I'm like, this is insane. And, we're low flying down the valleys, and it's like, I didn't realise that the helo would do several stops, like mail stops, dropping off mail and picking other people up and all that kind of shit. I thought, in my head, I'm playing, Rise of the Valkyrie, like, and we're going into battle kind of thing. And we landed this patrol base, and I'm like, no one else is doing anything. So I've unclipped, and I'm jumped off the helicopter, and this is not my stop. And I'm like, what's this? Yeah, I'm like, and the load is like, he's like, get the fuck back in the helicopter. So I got it. I jump back on, and then we fly around, and I'm just sat there waiting for someone else to get off. Do you know what I mean? So there was 2 of us from my squadron that were attached to the Royal Irish, and then so we finally reach our landing zone, and it's just this field, and we landed, and then everyone got off, and like, again, me being the youngest, or being a scrub, I was like, I'm offloading stuff off the heli bags and all that kind of stuff. And then kind of someone come up to me and kind of not tackle me, but it's like, get down, get on the ground kind of thing. And the downwash of the helicopter was so loud, I couldn't hear anything. Like, you don't know what's going on, and you just you've got the brown out and all that, and everyone's in all round defense. And as the Sea King's lifting off, that kind of that noise was replaced with that kind of crack and whiz of incoming rounds. You know what I mean? And I know what it is now, but back then I was a bit confused about it because no one explained like what incoming round sounded like. So I remember when we were in the butts back in basic training, when you're doing the target stuff, mm-hmm. I used to think that the crack, that noise, was the bullets hitting the target. So I'm like, wow, fucking hell, everyone in my platoon's a really good shot, not realizing that that's the fucking sound barrier. And when I got there, I was like, hey, there's no targets here, so this must be real. It's just like, just fucking, massive wave of fire coming in. And we looked around, and then on the top of the compound where we were staying, our patrol base, some A&A guy. I remember seeing this vividly. There was smoke grenades flying into the field, and we kind of extracted into the compound under cover of Dushka and fucking smoke, and that was like, yeah, like that was like day one. I remember getting in there thinking, it's like fucking hell. That was like, yeah, that was mental. When they reviewed the ICOM chat, I think they'd fired an RPG as well. They were trying to take down the Sea King. So at this point, we were taking over from One Lags, and their tour was particularly hard and quite a gritty one. So they had stopped all daylight air flights into the PB because they kept getting ambushed. And the guy I was replacing, the signaller, he told me that when he was going on R&R, his Sea King was actually hit by an RPG. Now I don't know. I didn't get the details because he didn't really say much. He wasn't very talkative, but I can understand why. But he said he was hit with shrapnel, and I was like, that sounds pretty mental. Like, and yeah, so our flight in was the very first flight that was allowed to fly in daylight, and then we got lit up, so they stopped it again. So everything had to be nighttime or road move. Yeah, and that was day one of the tour. You know what I mean? Yeah.
How was it that you were at 16 Air Assault Brigade? You'd never been on a helicopter before.
I don't know.
I mean, it's funny that they trained you in jumping out of an aircraft, but not in like getting on off a helicopter.
Yeah, I think at the time because of how stretched the resources were, I think that's probably what it was. You know what I mean? Most of the airframes were needed in theatre. But yeah, it was just the little things like, where do you sit? Like, what do you do? It was just quite funny. But yeah, that was the first day of a pretty long 7-month tour. Yeah, so we just arrived at the patrol base. I arrived there with the advance party, which was the signal detachment, the QM, the squad, the OC of the company OC of A company. We took over from the Lanks, and I mean, I could tell just by the looks in their eyes and the way they looked ragged. You know what I mean? I think they'd had a really particularly difficult tour. They'd lost quite a few people, and it was just it was one of those things where it's like when you go to war, you realize you kind of see that. The life there was, we lived in a small compound. It wasn't really particularly built up. My responsibilities were mainly on the communication side of things, so it would be split between me and my oppo. We would have to do radio shift in the op room, and that's manning the brigade. You've got the battle group net and then the company net, so the tactical on the ground stuff that's going on. You're plotting all of the movements of the call signs, booking people in, booking people out, and that's kind of like the run of the mill before anything happens. The other side of it was just the kind of, patrol-based duties, helping people out, doing stags. And later on in the tour, as we took casualties or people went on R&R, that's when, like, we didn't necessarily have to go on patrols or go out on the ground as signalers. We did when there was deliberate operations, or if the company OC was going out, you then had to be the HQ TAC, whatever, and then you'd fulfill the roles. But as we took casualties, then, sometimes you'd be asked to fill in the numbers. I think it was a good balance because you didn't necessarily have to, but what that meant for me, I was always volunteering to go out. Do you know what I mean? I really wanted to kind of get out there and do my part. The day-to-day life in the first 3 months, it was a contact every single day without fail. They used to hit the compound, small arms fire. Any patrols that went out you'd get 100 meters down the road and they'd just be absolutely hammered. You know what I mean? And it was LMGs, RPG. We took one direct hit actually once. A UGL flew into the compound and took out 2 A&A guys. They got pretty, they survived, but they were shrapnel. But it landed slap bang in the sand, and I thought, how the fuck? That must have been like a really fucking lucky shot. But what would happen is you'd sign on to shift, and then you'd book patrols out, and it was. So in my story, I'm able to tell things from both sides. So I've been in ambushes and contacts on the ground as just a general bot, but I'd also been doing the job of the ops room radio operator. And I think that's one side of things that don't really get talked about, because the ops room, it's like the epicenter, right? And when things are going on, not just anyone's allowed to be in there. If something kicks off, Sergeant Major will kick everybody out, and it's like the kind of weight on your shoulders really does ramp up, because it's like when there's troops in contact on the ground, you can hear the panic in people's voices over the net, and you're fucking frantically trying to write down everything that's coming over the net, because you've got to log everything whilst plotting the movements of call signs. And we had like a basic map, and we had like little pins, and we drew the numbers of the call signs on them. And you'd be plotting that and keeping an eye on what's going on. Then another patrol would be in contact, and it's like sometimes you have 6 patrols out, and every single one of them would be in contact at different locations at one time. And it was just, I think that was incredibly stressful. When you're quite a young soldier anyway. It definitely made me kind of grow up fast. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So talk us through that. Let's say a patrol's gone out, they've come into contact, you're in the ops room. Talk us through the kind of the stages of what you're doing then as the signal in the ops room.
So yeah, so you're obviously plotting where people are. You're asking them for constant lock stats. Well, they'll come over the net. They'll be like, "Yep, hello 0. This is 1 2 whatever. Contact wait out." And at that moment, the RSM, the CSM would normally come in and kick everyone out, and then you'll start. You basically just have to listen for the information. Listen to the information they're giving you, location, and then they'll send the Salter reports, size of enemy, actions, all that kind of stuff. And you're passing the information up the chain to battle group, and then basically just helping the kind of HQ team to manage the battle. So you'd have the fires team in the background. You might have an FST, fire support team on the ground calling in artillery or looking for assets and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just a very fast-paced, fluid environment, but also really tense, because you're dealing with just loads of information that you can't get wrong. Does that make sense? Like you have to, like grid references. If you write a grid reference down wrong, you have to clarify that, because if you've got one grid reference wrong, it could be life and death. IEDs everywhere. We also used to mark out locations of IEDs that were found and bypassed, because they used to do that. So yeah, that's the kind of ops room side of life. And then we did take quite a few casualties. When man down comes over the net, it's one of those things that's it's really chilling. It kind of sends a chill down your spine. I think the only people that really, experience that on the radios are obviously the multiple section commanders, right? Because not everyone has a radio, do they? It's just people have PRRs. So the only people that really are into that traffic are the people in the ops room and the people on the ground. And then, if someone's hit, when man down comes in, that's when you just have to, it really kind of goes up a notch, you know what I mean? And your focus, you have to, this is now life and death, and it's like laser focused. And it does feel like there's a lot of weight on your shoulders, and you're just waiting for the information. You've got to get the missed report, and then but when
there's what a missed report is,
missed report is basically a report that's in a format that this is how we format the information over the radio. So if someone gets injured, a missed report is the bare minimum of what you need to send up to the battle group in order to get a medevac helicopter to come and fly out to pick up the casualties. So as this chaos is going on, someone has been hit, wounded, or maybe KIA, and you need this information from them, and they're obviously trying to contain the situation, manage the battle space, but also pass this information on to you. So you have to be quite patient, and it can be quite distressing, listening to what's going on. But I will say that I've been in contact on the outside as well on the ground, so I've seen it from both sides. And yeah, we had a few casualties. I went on R&R, and the first casualty we took was a guy called McCormick. I think Ranger McCormick, and I'll say his name. Again, I must say the Royal Irish made me feel incredibly welcome, even though I wasn't one of their own. And I want to just convey my respect for those guys, because they really did make me feel welcome. And it's a bit of a weird one. It's like when some of their guys would get injured or killed, because you're not part of that. Because you're not part of that regiment, it can feel a bit awkward in how do you, like Gaz said, how do you console people? What do you do? Do you kind of whatever. But you just got to be there for them. And yeah, we took the first KI was Ranger McCormick. He died. I think it was November. I might be wrong. And that was devastating for the lads, and obviously for his family. Then the second casualty we had, I was on the net for that one morning. It was all quiet. There was nothing going on. At 7:00, I just signed on shift. I was, asking if anyone wants a coffee, and then the radio comes to life, and it's like, it's a man down. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, there's no one out. I said, say again. It's a man down. And I'm getting this information, and people are filtering into the option. Well, what the fuck is going on? Basically, there'd been a blue on blue by accident. Like an ND that unfortunately, killed the next casualty from the battle group. His name was young guy Ranger Dalzell. Like, I think what happened was one of the lads was putting his weapon back together after cleaning it, and you do your NSPs. Obviously had a magazine attached, pulled the trigger, and it hit the guy as he was walking past. And again, it was just one of those things that was just absolutely devastating. Do you know what I mean? Any kind of loss is gutting, but for it to happen like that, yeah, that was bad. And then so after all that, things kind of got a bit more real. I started going out on a few more patrols, because now at this point, not only have we had some KIAs, we've also got we've got loads of people who have been injured, gunshot wounds. I remember 2 guys were shot in one day, and that the numbers kind of dwindled. And so this is the next standout situation for me. It wasn't funny, but it was just surreal. We went on this patrol. My kind of deck commander, the Royal Irish guy, he didn't want us going out of control, because he was worried that if we got hit, we'd be hard to replace. So he was like, mate, you're not going out on patrol. You say, if you get hit, you're far too valuable. And I'm like, right, hold my beer. I'll fucking go in. So I went out on this patrol with these guys, and it was just a normal patrol. We're just going down, checking, speaking to local nationals, and we went down this road, and it's like a really straight road. And the Afghan roads have got the massive storm ditches outside, haven't they? So we're single file along this road. There's no cover left or right. And then, boom, 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 massive weight of fire comes in from the right. So contact right, we all turn and face. And I can't see the enemy. I'm just fucking returning fire like in basic training. I decided not to charge the enemy this time. Do you know what I mean? I stayed in formation. So returning rounds, I'm like, boom, boom, click. And I'm like, fuck, stoppage. So I get a stoppage. And I'm like, I cock the rifle, eject around, carry on putting some more down, and then I get another stoppage. So I'm like, fuck. I look to my right at this point, and I see the guy behind me. I was second from the back, and he had a UGL, and it was one of the coolest things I think I've ever seen anyone do. He got one round off, boom, and then shuffled to the right, reloaded, boom, another one, and he was just kind of like strafing left and right, getting these fucking UGL rounds off. And I think at that point, I then got tunnel visioned and zoned into what I was doing, trying to clear the stoppage. I didn't look left or right and see what was going on, and I didn't have a PRR. So by the time I clear my stoppage, I look up and I'm the only one left on this fucking road. And like, I'm literally like the only person out in the open. And I look to my left and I see one of the captains, the artillery guy. He's like, Harrage, get over it up. So I stand up and I'm running along the road. The other lads have jumped into this fucking cornfield to the left. I was worried about the IED, so I thought, well, in the build-up training, they told us don't just fucking jump in ditches, right? So I'm running along the road, and you could just see the fucking the kind of the fucking the rounds kind of bouncing on, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ! So I run over, and I get down behind this low wall, and so I'm kind of like looking over to try and cover a kind of sector, and this young 18-year-old lad, he's like, Segler, what is it? Don't fire your weapon. You'll hit one of our boys. And I'm like, I'm not a fucking retard. You know what I mean? I know how to handle the weapon. But yeah, that was one of my standout kind of moments of being out on the ground. From there, casualties, I say, unfortunately, 2 days before Christmas, we had 216. We lost our very first casualty, and that guy, his name was Stephen Dunn. He was not only was he like a brother to us, but he was also my he will be the infantry version of a section commander. So he was like, I was in his kind of, I was in his multiple all the way through pre-deployment training. And so he really did stand out to all of us as like, he was a really like, a larger than life kind of character. And he'd done several tours, and like, it really did sink in when he passed, because it was like, for me as a young lad, you're thinking, fucking hell, if that can happen to him, then, you know, you're like, what kind of chance do I have, kind of thing. But yeah, I think that hit our squadron quite hard, because in comparison, you know, to a regiment that's got about 600, you know, maybe 600-700 people, we're only a small squadron. But yeah, the Royal Irish were amazing to me and Dobbo, my mate Dobbo. So they flew us out to Bastion. They let us go to Bastion to go and do the ramp ceremony for him. Yeah, we got there, we said our goodbyes, and then we came back to the TV, and it was just, you just had to kind of crack on, do you know what I mean? And yeah, just get on with it, do you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
So did you carry him onto the plane to go home then?
No, I didn't. We lined the route for the C-130. So, yeah, the ramp is lowered, and then you have to line the route, and you're all kind of facing inwards, facing each other. And then as the coffin passes you, got to do like a quarter turn right. And I could just see, I remember looking down the line. It was so weird, because his coffin passed us, and, you know, they put him down. And we were just looking at the coffin. It just didn't seem real. We're like, you know, it's almost like we expected him to get up and, you know, start walking around. But yeah, you could just see people down the line. People were, you know, lads were crying. Do you know what I mean? Crying, and I think I was a little bit as well. But yeah, we said goodbye to him, and then Dobbo and I, we flew straight back to the patrol base, and it was back to business as usual. Do you know what I mean? No, there's no time to kind of, there wasn't really time to let it sink in. If that makes sense, yeah. Yeah. That's tough, but yeah, it is what it is. Then the tour after that kind of just carried on in the same way it had been. I think I kind of really cut my teeth on that first tour, which would then really help me on my second one. But one of the funny fucking, I remember one night we went on a night patrol, and I didn't have night vision. But we were going across to resupply one of the checkpoints with, I had to do some crypto fields, and I had a big HF radio with a fucking massive antenna on the back. And we're going along, and you know, like the kind of ditches, you have to jump the ditches, right? And anyone that's been Afghan will know those fucking massive ditches were super hard to clear. Like, I could never make it because I'm quite short as it is. And the CO is in front of me. He jumps across and he makes it. And I'm looking, I'm thinking, I can't really see what I'm doing. But I took a big run up and I jumped, and I could just feel myself falling short, and my knee clipped the edge, and I fell forward, right? And I could hear this kind of, I stand up and I could hear this choking. It's like, what the fuck? And I look up, and my whip antenna had fucking gone into the CO's neck. He's like, I thought, fuck, I've killed the fucking CO, but he was all right. And he's just like, fucking God. But yeah, sorry, yeah. But yeah, so I'm not quite conscious of time. I've been rambling on for ages.
That's all right, mate. That's all right. All right. So when you do you anything else from that tour that you want to get in?
No. The only thing I will say is after that, and I think it's important to mention the people that did pass. You know, and the last guy for us that we lost from the battle group was Lance Corporal McGee. He died 2 weeks before end of tour, which was gutting, obviously. Now that when I came back from that first tour, that kind of, I told you about, I wrote a poem, and that kind of, their experience really kind of helped form that. But yeah, that's kind of about it now from the first tour, I'd say.
So how did you feel then after that first tour, in terms of, like, you know, I mean, obviously there's bad days, but overall, did you enjoy it? Did you think this is where I want to be? You know, what was your kind of feelings in that sense when it comes to, like, let's call it a career? You know, were you like, I'm in the right place doing the right thing?
Yeah, definitely was. That tour, you know, you had to grow up fast, and I definitely grew up very fast there. It was definitely it was a realization. You know, it's like, this isn't a game. What we're doing is real. But yeah, I definitely, I loved it, and I was very grateful for the opportunity to serve my country and to actually see combat, if that makes sense. And I'm not like bigging myself up here, because not everyone gets a chance to do it, especially not in the signals, you know. And yeah, that I was really, really grateful that I actually got to experience it all from both sides, if that makes sense. Yeah. But yeah, I think one of the weirdest things was adjusting back to normal life was quite weird. Obviously we had your Cyprus trip, but and again the airborne lads off their heads, man. I remember it was like 3 a.m. or something like that. We'd had our 2 beers, we're in Cyprus, and someone had fucking taken a shit, and he caught his shit, and he's running around like throwing turds at people. Do you know what I mean? That's like 3 a.m. I was like, what the fuck? What's wrong with this, And it was like, so yeah, that was that. Yeah, readjusting was weird.
Yeah. So when did you get stood to for the second job that you went out on, which wasn't, I don't know, would you call it was a tour, right? But it wasn't a kind of battle group tour that you did before. So how did that one come about?
Oh, yeah. So after that, I got promoted to Lance Corporal, and then I got posted to my next unit that I went to. Next unit was a conventional signal squadron.
Why was that, mate? Why the change from 216?
Because in the signals you do 3 to 4 year postings, and if you have to move around. I think it's changed now, which is much better for the lads. I got posted because I got promoted and there wasn't any PIDs, so I get to my new unit, and that's where I went on the PTI course.
Let's talk about the PTI course. Yeah, let's talk about the PTI course.
Yeah, so
we're both sat here in our vests right now.
Yeah, right? Yeah, got my fucking flag section in it.
Yeah, nice.
So yeah, I got to that unit because I was winged up. I never really wanted to be a PTI. It didn't interest me. I'm glad that I did it. And my thing, what I always disliked was I hated going on PT sessions and doing pointless shit. When you see the PTI and he'd have you doing an upper body overload, press ups, tricep dips, pull ups, and you're thinking, I know for a fact you couldn't do that yourself. So what the hell you want me to? They're like beasting you. But I got to my new squadron, and the QBSI, I was late for PT because I think I read the wrong orders. And he was like, why are you late? And I explained it. And he was like, right, your squadron needs a PTI. It's like, you're winged up, so you should be ready to go. You start on Monday, get your joining instruction. I was like,
by winged up, you mean that you don't P company, so
yeah.
They assume you have a high level of fitness.
Yeah, so because I have my wings, and it's like, yeah, that's the assumption. And that's one of those things that one of the standards you always kind of weirdly have the pressure to keep up. But now I'm in a regular unit, everyone, you really do stand out. Do you know what I mean? Sometimes it's a good thing. Other times it might have been a bad thing. But yeah, I went to PTI course down in Aldershot, Fox Lines. I really, really, I don't know, it was a really weird experience for me because the parallel was, it was a great course and I enjoyed myself, but what I went through at the same time was really difficult. I'll say it right now, I went through a period of real racial discrimination. So when I arrived, my instructor, when I passed all the assessments, you get put into these sections, and my instructor I felt like he had it out for me, but I couldn't really pinpoint what the deal was. And I was doing press-ups in one of the tests one day, and he comes over and he's like, you fucking Will Smith rapper wannabe cunt, what the fuck are those cunt? What's this? And I'm thinking, what the fuck? I was like, what the fuck is that about? I don't even know you. Do you know? Like, why are you making references like that? And then he would just he kept referring to me. Now this, I shouldn't laugh at this, but it wasn't funny, but it was. He kept calling me Harvey, as in like Katie Price's son, the fucking, the disabled kid. I was just like, what the fuck? So he would refer to me as Harvey, refused to call me by my name. And they were explaining the endomorph body types and all that. And he was like, right, so, and that's it, whatever morph is skinny. And he's like, Harvey, stand up, because Harvey's fat, he's an endomorph, and all, he's an ectomorph, or whatever. And I was like, you fucking worker, do you know what I mean? But it was, where it kind of got serious was, our instructor organised a piss up for everyone. We all went out in town, and then the next day we were on parade, and all of us were still hungover. You could smell the alcohol on everyone, and he was going down the line chatting to the lads, and he was like, "Yeah, mate, you had a good night, did you? I can smell the booze on you." Laughing, high fiving. He gets to me and he looks at me and he's like, "Harrage," he's like, "You smell of alcohol." And I'm thinking, of course I do. You organised a piss up, and he's like, "No, you're unfit for duty. See me after this." I'm thinking, what? You're joking? So anyway, I wait for him, and then he's like, follow me, marches me to the to get a disciplinary, to get an guy from the training officer. And I march in, and he's like, left, right, halt, and all that. You have to stand there. And he's the late entry officer. He's para-reg, and he's looking at me. And then I just started going into a tirade. He's like, fucking people like you people, this and that. And it was just the things that he was saying. I was just like, fucking hell, this is like, this is racist. Do you know what I mean? It's really...
This is off the section commander or the training officer?
So the section commander put me in for disciplinary, and then obviously the training officers then literally laying into me, people like you're kind, you people, and it's like, that's undeniable, isn't it? You know what you're saying. So they aggroed me unfit for duty, but then I had to fucking go and do a swimming gala, and I did the fucking butterfly. It's like, I can't even do the butterfly. If I'm unfit for duty, is that not a fucking risk to my life? Like, I can't do the butterfly. And I'm in a fucking pool, do you know what I mean? I already look like I'm drowning. What the fuck? Where's the logic in that? And it was just hard because, like, one weekend, it was a Friday, and you see my hair now, it's, I've got skin on the side, but it used to be a lot shorter on top. They used to call me High and Tight Mark. And everyone's dispersed at, 12 o'clock, and he's like, right, you need to stay behind, go and get yourself a fucking haircut and report back. And I went and got a haircut, came back. He's like, no, not good enough. Go and get a haircut again. And I went back to the same barber. I'm like, mate, you just have to cut this all up. And it was just shit like that really, really was prevalent. And this one thing I will say about the brotherhood in the army is that I thought I was going through that alone. And it was really tough. I kind of fell into a depression. So I just kind of didn't really do anything other than I couldn't put a foot wrong. But one of the lads had noticed it, and he on the piss one night. I wasn't drinking. He said, "Why aren't you drinking?" I was like, "Well, if I do, they'll do me again." And he just kind of started laying into the instructor, and he was like, "You're the best." He's saying to me, "He's like, you're the best. You're one of the best among us with your lesson plans," because he gave me all of the toughest lessons. Do you remember doing your lesson plans that you had to do? Yeah, and it's like the hardest ones. It was like the rifle PT. He's like, you're not allowed to do. Rifle PT was really hard to do, and swimming and all that. But yeah, long story short with that, at the end of the course, the lads, like, he called me Harvey again in front of everyone, and the lads stood up and they were like, if you do that, I couldn't believe it was like a mutiny. They're like, if you do that again, we're just going to boycott you. We're going to walk out. We're not going to stand for it. And I really did appreciate that. And, if I could ever see those lads again, I'd say thank you for that, because I thought I was going through that alone. Do you know what I mean? And it was a really tough place to be. So, but yeah, that was that.
Mega. Lads Unite. What regiment? Do you remember what regiment that lad was from?
He was Scots Guards. Yeah. So after that, then I'll be conscious of time now. So,
mate, keep going.
Yeah, I feel like I've been talking for a fucking ages. So I get back to my unit. I was PTR there, cracking time. I really enjoyed working down the gym. It was brilliant. I think I told you that story on the voice note of the officers. So for the listeners, I was in 3div HQ. So we, working at the gym there, we had the division HQ, which meant we also had to provide PT for them, for the officers. And these are like brigadier, general and all that. And I did a circuit. I put a circuit together, and it was a CrossFit style circuit, exercises inside the sports hall, and then you run a lap around the gym and you come back in. And I'm like, I've never spoken to officers at that high level. I didn't know how to speak to them. And I was like, right then, everyone understand what you need to do. So you're going to run outside and do a lap of the gym. As I was explaining it started raining. And one of the officers, like, I think he was a brig or something, like, puts his hand up and was like,
Brigadier?
Yeah, maybe a brig. I don't know. He looked and sounded like one. Yeah. No, he didn't even say stuff. He was like, Corporal, it's raining outside. I'm not going outside. I was like, what the fuck do I do now? Am I allowed to shout at him?
I'm doing knees to chest, mate. Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. So that's that then. So
talk us through the second tour then, mate.
Yeah. So the second tour, I was detached from my parent unit. A role had come up in Kabul that needed filling by someone who was a lance corporal, preferably combat experienced radio, who was proficient in the role basically, and it was to support a team of Special Forces advisors, international special operators, and the team was 22 people. It was based in Kabul. They were called Special Operations Advisory Group, and their main role was to mentor the HQ element of the GDPSU, General Directorate Police Special Units, which I think most people that have been on tour may have at some point seen these guys and called them the Tiger Teams. They were all like the desert cams, and they were basically the Afghan police special forces, like SWAT or, like the CTSFO we have in the UK. And my job there was to be a driver and radio operator, mainly for the team commander, but I was also the admin for the team and in day-to-day life. So in order to, the prerequisites for that was we basically, all of our vehicles were Toyota Land Cruisers, the armoured Land Cruisers. They were called civilian armoured vehicle. So I had to get qualified in Cat C. I had to do my Cat C driving course, which was sick because it's like you can earn quite a bit of money on the outside. So I had to get my Cat C license. Did that, and then I went on a driving course. And then, I didn't have any pre-deployment training because they couldn't really tell me what I was going to be doing, so I didn't really know anything. But yeah, I deployed out there. And then I arrived in Kabul, and two guys were waiting for me at the airport, just in like civvies. Do you know what I mean? And they were like, you Harrage? I was like, yeah. And I was like, get in this Land Cruiser. So we drove back. And we were, the makeup of the team was, we had all the SF guys were senior NCOs, and it was like an international team. So my first boss was UK SRR. He was the commander. And then the one that took over after him was 22 SAS. Then you had, so it was like all of the HQ functions. You got like the intelligence cell, training cell, and all that kind of stuff. All of those functions had an Afghan officer running that job, and then we had the ISAF equivalent kind of counterparts doing mentoring them. So yeah, day-to-day life was pretty nice. The team members we had Australian commando guys. We had a New Zealand SAS guy who was like in his 60s. But funny story about him, he joined the army at 18 and fought in Vietnam, like as a fucking mortarman. It was just like, I was just like, Jesus Christ, you fucking must have some stories, but he was really funny as well. We had, Polish guys, Norwegians, and yeah, so that team was pretty cool. Day to day for me was, I basically had to, if ever my boss needed to go over to mentor the Afghans, his counterpart, I'd have to drive him there. And then when I'd get there, I'd have to kind of watch his back and be his, like, almost security detail protection, just to kind of, because obviously the green on blue problem that we had in Afghan was quite prevalent. So within that, the other main task that I had, which was the main critical role, was to deploy on the ground in the event of a crisis response or a complex attack. And that was, we would deploy as a team. It would be the boss, myself, and the interpreter. I would drive the wagon, get the radio in the back, we'd drive to the scene and just kind of go from there. So I did two of those call-outs for two quite high-profile attacks in the city. Should I go into those?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So the first one, so basically the Afghan SWAT, let's call them the Afghan SWAT guys, they're the Afghan GDPSU guys, right? At the tactical level, they were mentored by the Norwegian Navy SOF, which was the MJK at the time. And they had like a 6-man team, I think, and they were like mentoring all the SWAT, the sections. The first attack I went to, I think it was the United Nations compound, where the insurgents had driven a truck and parked it along the wall of a compound of one of the aid agencies, blown a hole in the wall, and then 7 of them had ran in with asbestos on naked suicide vests, and they started rampaging through the building. On that day, me and the boss, like, for some reason, he used to love, there was a mountain near where we were based, and every Friday, I think, or something like that, we'd go up this mountain. It was like 2 hours up and then 2 hours down, so you're fucking absolutely dying. And on that day, there was supposed to be a counter-terrorism exercise just to test readiness. So we got back to camp, back to base. We're sat there chilling, waiting for the call. The call never came. The boss is like, right, stand down, mate. Go get some scarf, go to bed. I get into my room, and we called it the bat phone, the call-up phone. It's like, and he's like, right, Mike, get to the fucking office. It's on. And I'm like, oh, what, the exercise? It's like, no, it's the fucking real thing. And I was like, shit. So I'm like, oh, fuck. And I'm sprinting back to the office. I get in there, get the weapons out the gun rack, fucking load the wagon, and like, yeah, we go to leave the green zone. And at this time, you could actually hear the explosions going off, and you could see like the plumes of smoke rising through the city. And it was just a really weird, surreal feeling, because I'm literally driving into this thinking, what the fuck? You don't know what to expect. It's completely different to Helmand, and you're driving through Kabul, and all the roads are locked down. So whenever attacks on the scene would happen, they would all be locked down. There's just loads of roadblocks. So the local police would arrive on scene. They would cordon off the kind of area, and they'd have an outer and an inner cordon. And as we were approaching the cordon, like from the right at a junction, this convoy of 6 black Humvees came fucking tearing down the road. And this was the guys that we were mentoring. And like, we just tailed onto the back of this convoy, and it was sick. It was like something out of a movie. And they're just fucking, gunning for it, right? And we pull into the inner cordon, and everyone dismounts. And now we're running down the road towards the target building where the fight is going on. And there are these T-walls. Do you remember? Did you ever see T-walls?
You mean the big concrete walls?
Yeah. So there's all these T-walls, and a T-wall is like a massive concrete slab that you kind of use to block areas off. And these T-walls, they had little gaps. They had sizable gaps in these T-walls. And we're running up to the scene of the attack, and you can just hear the fight. And it's just, what I noticed, what really shocked me and how different it was just the noise of it. Like, fighting in an urban environment, the noise is just so much louder. It's so much more amplified. You know what I mean? And it's just like, when they're firing fucking rockets, it's like, boom, that's fucking so loud. Anyway, we're all in single file. We're running down the road now, and then we get to these T-walls, and there's a gap in the T-wall, and one of the Afghans goes across, and as he goes across, I think his movement must have been picked up by one of the guys in the building, and they start fucking peppering rounds towards this gap in the wall. So we were like doing this kind of one by one thing, do you know, where one person goes and then you wait. And then my boss went, and he fucking crouched down and sprinted across, and he looks at me, he's like, right, come on, Black White, go. I'm like, shit, I took a deep breath. I run across, and it's like they're still kind of trying to pick us off. And yeah, we got to the scene of the attack, and from there, my job now, I was straight on the net. I was fucking getting into it, on top of my kind of comms role. So I had to make contact with the gold commander, and I'm there passing sit reps, and it's just, the fight went on for about 13 hours, and yeah, it was really intense. But I felt like I had to pinch myself, because I'm here in the middle of a counter-terrorism operation, if that makes sense. Like, it was quite surreal being there. Do you know what I mean? Like, I thought, this is fucking mental. But as I'm there, I obviously had to laser in and really focus on what I was doing, make sure the comms were up, getting the sit reps going back and forward. At the same time, I'm also kind of keeping one eye open, keeping an eye out for my boss. And as this is going on, we've got like a fire support group on the rooftop of a building, and it's the Norwegians, and they were hammering this building, and they started firing the LASMs. I think LASMs. Do you know what they're called?
I don't know what it stands for, but basically what used to be like kind of like a 66. It's like a sort of little pop the back out, put it over your shoulder, kaboom. A disposable rocket, basically. Yeah,
literally. And they're fucking hammering the building. They start firing these LASMs in there, and it's like boom, boom. It was just fucking so loud. And then they fired so many into there that the assaulting sections, when they went in, they had to stop the assault because some of the curtains and the furnishings in the building had caught fire. So they had to come back out of this corridor. And then they had to halt the attack to get a fire truck to come in. And there's this big Afghan fire truck that's in the middle of the battle. It was just so weird. I was like, what the fuck is going on? But yeah, that was a crazy experience. And it was just mad because you're in the middle of this fucking massive gunfight, and there was a big TV crew turn up, and there was an Afghan minister who had literally ran. Right, he's like, they heard the battle was going on, and they'd all rushed to get to the scene to be seen on camera, almost like Winston Churchill, and when he was I can't remember what that incident was, where he went in. Someone had three I think terrorists had besieged the building, and then Winston Churchill went in and fucking. Oh yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I do. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
Yeah, and he's he eventually he burned the building down, didn't he? And they all died. So it was like that equivalent, and these people are all with a massive news crew trying to be seen in the middle of the battle. And one of them was talking, and he's walking backwards. And as he's talking to the cameras, there was like a drain. There was a manhole, and the cover was off. And he wasn't looking where he's going. And as he's backing up, one of his legs fell into the hole, and the other one was like outstretched. So he was doing this he was halfway in with one leg in, one leg out. It's just fucking, yeah, really funny. Like, two people did the exact same thing.
I'll give the AI overview from Google. The Winston Churchill hostage situation refers to the Sidney Street siege in London's East End in January 1911, where Churchill, the Home Secretary, faced criticism for his involvement. The situation involved a standoff between police and Latvian anarchist immigrants who had killed 3 policemen. While there was no hostage situation in the traditional sense, Churchill's decision to prevent firefighters... So basically what happened was they killed these 3 policemen, the building that they were holed up in was on fire, and Churchill told the firefighters, fuck them, stand down.
Yeah. It was like the equivalent of that. So you've got these ministers all like fucking... Yeah, that guy fell into the hole, right? And he gets out, and then another one did the same thing. It was just, yeah, I was really, really, really mad. So yeah, that situation was resolved. All enemy were killed, and then we just kind of fell back and went back to base. And our base, I was lucky because we were in HQ ISAF, so it was like, it was proper. It was a really nice camp, right? And it's like, obviously that's where all the kind of the head shed are. So it was weird because you're out on the ground operating in this extreme environment. You've just been through that, and then you come back, and it's like you can go to a pizza shop and get a pizza. You can go down the calf. Do you know what I mean? And whatever. And we had air conditioned rooms and all that. And it was all right. And then I guess I'll go on to the second standout incident, obviously, because I'm aware of the time. It's a 2 hours.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I think we're going to be over that, mate, but keep going. It's to be honest, mate, usually it just ends up being about 2 hours, but
yeah,
it's not hard a fast time, mate.
Yeah, so the next call out we had was I don't know if you know, it was the Kabul International Airport. So this was the same place that, during the evacuation that we saw all the images of, where all the ISAF countries were evacuating all the Afghans. It was around there. So basically, again, about 5 to 7 insurgents in the early hours of the morning had they'd taken up positions in 2 buildings. So like buildings that were under construction, and they were firing RPGs into the airport, trying to hit the aircraft. And I think they had a mortar on the roof, which I think if I remember rightly, they tried to fire a mortar round through the roof, and I think the roof collapsed, and I think they died. I can't remember the specifics, but so we get called out to this. Again, same situation, outer cordon. The Afghan SF police are en route. We arrived there, and this time we had one of the German team members came out as a driver, and it was like 7 or 8 in the morning. We didn't have time to get any scoff or anything, so we're down there, and I get down behind a low wall. I'm getting my radio on, trying to make comms with the Gold Commander and all that, and I wasn't getting any comms.
Sorry, but when you say Gold Commander, is that the Gold Squadron, or who is that?
So that's like the crisis response model, and I think this is public knowledge, so I'm not giving away any secrets there. But right. in the UK, you'll have gold, silver, and bronze command. So I think gold is like the kind of the HQ command who are strategizing.
Okay.
I think silver is the response units, and that's what we were. That was our call sign. And then bronze are like the support units, like medics, firefighters, and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, okay. Gold is command, silver is the assault element, and then the bronze are the kind of support. So I'm trying to get comms in, and I'm like, I'm not getting anything. So I'm unpacking my bag, and then Tommy, the German, and this is where I think you really do realize the level of professionalism that SF soldiers have. I really did see how it was like he could see things that I couldn't, and he's like, Mike, pack your bag. It's like it's getting closer, as in the fire. And I was like, where? What are you talking about? And as he said that, a fucking RPG line came through, went poof, like just across the road from us. So I'm like picking up my shit, running back, and I've got balls of water and shit falling out of my day sack, and he's like, fucking leave it, Mike, get behind the wall. So we're running, and it was like, that was a crazy one as well, because the Norwegian tactical commander on the ground, he was like, right, he's like, have you guys got your respirators? And I was like, yep, yes, I have. I remember I took my respirator and I thought, everyone was like, why are you going to take that, mate? Because I always remember thinking, see, the SAS, they've always got resis, haven't they? And I thought, one day, this is coming out. I was like, one day. And he's like, have you got your respirators? And I was like, yes. I was like, I fucking do it. He goes, right, we're going to gas them up. Then we're going to gas them out of the building. And I was just like, see, told you this would come fucking out, dude. But yeah, that one was a mad one. So yeah, again, same kind of thing. The Afghans eliminated all of the enemy, all of them killed. And then we just kind of folded back. And that was about, the first attack was 13 hours. That one was about 4 or 5. And I think it was in those moments that I was really grateful for my first tour, because my first tour was where I really cut my teeth. Do you know what I mean? And so once you've been exposed to combat and all that, and you understand the differences between what rounds sound like when they're near, they're far, and whatnot, it really enabled me to keep a level head and just keep on top of my responsibilities. Because working with the Special Forces guys, one thing that I noticed was they respect everybody for their ability. You get spoken to like an adult. You're not, it's kind of just, it's do your fucking job and, make sure you do what you say you're going to do. Do you know what I mean? It's like, and it was that environment was really, it was amazing. I really had an amazing tour when I was with them. Yeah.
Anything else from that tour stick out, mate, that you want to cover?
Probably a couple of really funny people. I'd say our sergeant major, the team sergeant major, was an Australian guy. His name's H. He's done quite a few podcasts, but he was larger than life. 2 commando guy, really well built. He always had like shades on and a baseball cap, so you could never really see his facial expressions. It's probably by design, but he always used to chew dip, like chewing tobacco. And he'd have like this clear bottle. Yeah. He'd have this clear bottle to spit into, and he had a big bottle of dip spare, and it was fucking disgusting. And me and my roommate Fletch were like, what would you rather do? Would you rather drink that bottle of dip spare or do another 3 months here? And I was like, fuck that, mate. I'll do 3 months. But he was really funny because his accent, like, he didn't really take any shit. And I was in charge of the accommodation, allocating the rooms to the lads. I told him that he had to share a room because everyone on ISAF had to share a room. And he was like, mate, fuck that. I've got loads of fucking gear. I'm not sharing a fucking room. And he's like, basically asked me to sort it. So I'm like, you'll have to go and speak to the camp commandant, who was an Italian. And this is like I don't know, a general or whatever, really high-ranking officer. And he's like, right, mate. He's like, what's the deal? I need my own fucking room. And he's like, sorry, this is not how it's going to work. And I'm like, oh, he's like, yeah, but mate, you're not getting me. I've got loads of fucking gear, mate. I'm just like, and when he got his roommate was like, he hated his roommate, and his roommate was really like, he was in his 60s and he was quite overweight, but he had all the Cry Precision kit on, and it just looked really odd. It just didn't look right. And he was like, mate, I'm not sharing a room with that fucking fat cunt. It's just, he's like, that fucking fat cunt. Yeah. Oh man, I could go on for ages. There's so many stories, but yeah, I think I'll close off there for that tour. That's kind of the main points covered off there.
Did you do any other deployments after that one, or was that the final tour?
That was the final tour for me. Yeah, I came back to a unit. I was aiming to go on for SF. I wanted to go on SF selection, but then I met my current partner. I met her on Plenty of Fish. When I was out in Kabul 2 weeks before I came back, I started lining up dates. You know what I mean? Because you had internet there, so I was like, yeah. No,
is that still going? Plenty of Fish. Shout out Plenty of Fish.
I don't know, mate. I've not been single for.
But Plenty of Catfish, probably, mate, as well.
Yeah. Other dating sites are available. Let's say.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was it. We met, and then I just kind of I don't know. I just decided it's time, the right time to kind of leave, and I wanted to start a family and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I decided to sign off, and that was that, man.
So when you've done these deployments and leaving the army, your transition, how did you find it?
I really didn't struggle in my transition, and I'm very, very. I feel like I'm quite lucky in that area, and I'm very grateful. And I think that was all down to the fact that I had a trade behind me. It was something that was easily transferable. Do you know what I mean? I think whereas a lot of the guys, struggle and they going into security work. And for me, I'm an engineer now. I've been in the same job, for 10 years now. Do you know what I mean? I earn a decent wage, can live comfortably, and so I think the transition. What I found the kind of transition was difficult, obviously, in trying to reintegrate into society. But in terms of like work and all that, again, because of my trade, I've managed to land on my feet really. So yeah, I can't complain there.
I suppose as well, it's like your life, you've moved from one place, to another and to another and to another quite a lot. I mean, do you think that kind of helps when you've had so many chapters?
Yeah.
Does it help them to move on the next? All right, mate.
Yeah.
Well, go.
So yeah, definitely, yeah. So it's absolutely made life a lot easier. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, on the subject of transitions, boom. When did you start doing the DJing?
Oh yeah. So DJing, that was nice. Yeah, there you go.
I've been working on that one, mate.
yeah. Good transition. I think I can't remember when I started. I think I started in 2017. One of my mates said, "You know what? You're a really good dancer." Weird thing to say, but yeah. I think I must have been a decent dancer. He's like,
was he on Plenty of Fish as well?
yeah. Don't tell them it's a but yeah, basically, kind of encouraged me. Why don't you start DJing? So I did. I started. I got software and I started watching YouTube videos, learning how to beat match and all that kind of stuff. And I picked it up from there. I bought myself a controller and then I just started applying to play anywhere I could and anywhere that would have me. And now I've reached a point where I've made so many new friends and so many opportunities, and it's been a really kind of mad thing. As we're on a military podcast, I've got two of the boys that I DJ with quite a lot. They're in the artillery, DJ G, Carlos Piers, and it's I DJ with them quite a lot, and it's wicked whenever I'm with them. Do you know what I mean? It's always a really good crack. But yeah.
How important do you think that is to find something? I mean, you've got your family, obviously, which is priority number one, but, when it comes to having something that was so much of a purpose and something a bit out of the ordinary as well, really, isn't it? Because the army's out of the ordinary. It's ordinary when you're in it because it's kind of all you know at the time. But to find something that is a bit different outside the 9 to 5, where, I think do you feel like that's important, whether that's climbing mountains or DJing or whatever?
Yeah, I'll definitely say so, because when I moved here, my thing was I didn't know anybody, so I moved down to the town that I live in. I didn't know anyone and I didn't really have any mates, but DJing, it's something that took my mind off. It took my mind off all of the kind of the post-deployment stuff, because obviously I kind of went through a tough time with that, but not only was I able to socialize, you're under pressure, and it's quite challenging as well, because when you're DJing, you're literally if you're on your own, you're up there and everybody's relying on you to provide the entertainment. So if you fuck it up, people are like, it's just not what I mean. But when I met Aaron and Carlos, I hadn't been back in the army kind of sphere or around people from the military for a long time. And I DJ'd with them one night and we went back to Carlos's house and he had his mates over from Purbright. And in the morning when we woke up, we were all sitting around the kitchen table chewing the fat, and they were all trading stories. And this Scottish lad was like, hey, did you see that bird with the summer teeth? And I'm like, what? Summer teeth? He's like, aye, some are there, some are fucking not. It was just things like that really, really cracked me up, man. Yeah, it was refreshing. It was rejuvenating to be back around that again,
Now, that you mentioned as a kid you didn't have any confidence. Is it the army and the service that gave you that to then be able to stand in front of a group of people?
Yeah, definitely. I think, and again, I'll go back to P Company and say that that I think that really did change my life. Jumping out of a plane, if you can do that, then in my opinion, there wasn't really that much that I felt daunted by, and also I just felt like after the 2 tours as well, it's like, no matter how bad things get, it's not as bad as where you've been, if that makes sense. And then, and it just became a bit of a challenge just to step up and push yourself. Do you know what I mean? And obviously you get paid a decent amount of money for it. You get to you can drink on the job. You know what I mean?
Just like the army.
Yeah. Get pissed off.
So we spoke last time. You thought of a few of the things that you kind of wanted to discuss about that Kabul in the Kabul tour, the second tour, but particularly around that kind of the fact that you were just operating a lot of times in a single vehicle on your own, and obviously a massive city. So do you want to tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, so I guess I've been quite, jovial and jokey this whole way through, but I think to give it kind of the seriousness, we used to operate in, we do single vehicle moves, whereas in Kabul in the city, most units would do convoy moves, big armored vehicles, MRAPs and all that with ECM. But the thing about Kabul is, if you've ever been to like India or somewhere, it's chaos. Like, it's just the traffic is mental. Like, you're always in traffic. So it's kind of like, you are a massive target as it is. And it was, I think it was quite stressful because at the time, one of the biggest threats to ISAF convoys or personnel was the magnetic mines. Have you ever heard of them?
No, not really, mate. No.
No. So these their TTPs they would look for convoys or clearly like ISAF vehicles or whatever, and then there'll be teams of people on motorbikes. So two up, they'd ride up, attach a magnetic mine, which is basically a bomb, which they attach magnetically to a vehicle and then kind of whiz away. Given that they're on motorbikes, it was easy for them to dash in and out of the traffic. And I think while I was there, they hit an Italian convoy. I might be wrong, but I think they killed like 11 people. So it was like every day driving around the city, just getting from A to B, it was fucking mega stressful. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, I'll be sat there like looking left and right, just like sweating. But then it's kind of like when you're in that situation, there's, I don't know, you have this kind of resignation as to, I don't know, that feeling of, well, fuck it, I hope it's quick. And my friend and I, Fletch, we had a near miss one night. So we often would have to drive up to the airport. So we'd go from our base in HQ, ISAF, and there's a massive long, like dual carriageway type road. And it was about 2 a.m. We had to go and pick up a Danish Special Forces guy who was coming to join our team for a bit. And we're going down this dual carriageway. It's empty. There's nothing there. And then I see weirdly, I saw like this wagon, like a donkey wagon, and it was in the middle of the road, which I guess clearly it was a roadblock. But I don't know why. In the driver training courses, that I did, we were taught, kind of how to, that kind of driving hostile environments, that kind of stuff. But I don't know why. I thought it looks so odd that there's just this fucking wagon blocking the whole of the road that I slowed down to almost a stop. And then as I did that, there was a massive clang on the side, on the side of our vehicle. And instantly in my mind, I thought, shit, they've got us, right? So I fucking put my foot down, pushed through that cart and literally just fucking hammered it all the way down to the airport. And it was like the whole drive, any second, you were just waiting for it to go off. Do you know what I mean? And I guess we'll never know for sure. Nothing happened. And I think when me and my mate Fletch spoke about this, we reckon it must have something, if it was a magnetic mine, we reckon it may have fallen off or something, if that makes sense. Because, we'll never know whether it was or whether it wasn't. But given the fucking TTPs of the time, that's literally what we thought. And we didn't speak about it. We got to the airport, picked this guy up, and it was only after tour that I asked him, I was like, mate, do you remember that night? He's like, yeah, fucking, he felt exactly the same. So, yeah, that was a fucking near miss. I'll count it as a near miss anyway.
So you think it was they put something in the road to slow you down, and then as you slow down, someone shoots out on a bike, slaps the magnetic mine on you? Think that's what was going on?
Well, I reckon so. I reckon that's what happened because, I don't know, it's the only thing that kind of makes sense. It might not have been, but when we both discussed it like a year later when we got home, he said exactly the same thing. That's what we thought it was. So, yeah, I mean...
Are these vehicles that you're moving in then, do they stand out a mile away as being security forces?
Not our vehicles. So we used to use Toyota Land Cruisers, and they're like the up-armored, well, not up-armored. They've got like bulletproof glass and armor plating. But ours were really old and really kind of really dirty and all that. So the reason why we did that, we didn't have any ECM. My first team boss, he was from the SRR, and he was like, his thing was like, we need to give us the best chance of survival, we need to be as low vis as possible. So we used to wear like, I had an Afghan parkour, the hat, and I had like, we had like scarves and stuff that we used to wear over the top of our clothes. And I guess his logic was that if we are in that situation, and there is someone in a VBID, a suicide bomber, or a magnetic mine team, if they looked into the vehicle, it might just buy us a couple of seconds. Do you know what I mean? Because we, just to kind of keep us not standing out.
Did you grow your beard out?
No, I didn't do that.
But were you allowed to though?
I don't really know. I don't think so, because it was like, because I wasn't Special Forces, I never really took the piss. I kind of, I knew my place. Whereas my mate Fletch, he was fucking hilarious, honestly. Our Sergeant Major H, the Aussie 2 Commando guy, he had a pair of multicam. What are they called now? Oh god, what's it called now? God damn it! The knee pad trousers and all that.
The cry cam.
Yeah. He had loads of issued cry kit, and he gave me and Fletch. He's like, "Here you go, guys. Do you want some of this?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, that'd be sound. That'd be nice." And the very next day, I went to the cookhouse to get some food, and I seen Fletch. He was dressed head to toe in the cry kit, baseball hat, cry kit. He's from the Remy. It was so funny. I was just like, "Fucking hell." Yeah, that was fucking funny.
So, anything else that you wanted to cover that we didn't catch last time we spoke?
Yeah, I guess I think one of the things I'll say is that tour with the Special Forces, the Special Operations guys, I wanted to say about the Afghans. They were I don't know, they were really highly trained, top level guys, and I noticed the difference between them and the regular Afghan police, because it was like, when we when we used to go to their base every day, I'd drive the boss there, and then he'd go in and he'd be doing his meetings with the commander, and I used to have to kind of watch the doors, if that makes sense. So I'd stay outside of the building and kind of be his cover. But one thing that I did was, I'm very aware of cultural sensitivities, if that makes sense, given the way I grew up. And it's like, when we were in their camp, in their base, we were effectively under their protection. And I just felt like if I was to stand there in full kit, rifle, helmet, all that kind of stuff on, I felt like it would be, it might be taken the wrong way, if that makes sense, as in like I don't trust them, which obviously you don't. So obviously we don't. But I think I took a leap of faith, and I ditched all that, and I just had my sidearm and my rifle slung. And because their commander had a team of bodyguards as well, and they were doing the exact same thing. And with me breaking down that barrier, we I couldn't speak Pashto or Dari, they couldn't speak English, but we all became really close. It was really funny. We just used to sit there laughing and, obviously watching the doors, obviously doing our job, but it was funny. And I think I built quite a decent bond with these guys, and it kind of came to show at the airport attack. When we went to the airport attack, we were taking cover behind a building, and I was sorting the radio out, and this pickup truck pulls up, and right behind us there was a group of ANP, the normal guys, blue uniform guys. Obviously they were the biggest, the most infiltrated out of all of the forces, I reckon. So I was really nervous having all these AMP guys behind us looking at us, because you know what I mean? Because it's easy to just fucking shot us in the back while we're kneeling down to do something. But as this truck pulls up, their commander jumps out, and then the team of bodyguards that I chill with on a daily basis, they come over. They're like, "Hey, Black Mike." They used to call me Black Mike. Like, "Yeah, Black Mike, yes." And then like they kind of, obviously they're watching their own boss, but a couple of them were stood facing the AMP guys. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. So
right.
They were literally facing the AMP guys because they knew that they didn't trust them either. So yeah, that was quite interesting. I always thought it's worth making the effort to, respect those kind of cultural sensitivities, because I felt like that paid off in the end, because those guys were watching R6 as well.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. And overall then, was your experience of, because obviously, like you said, there's multiple different groups of Afghan security forces, but the ones that you were in contact with, and you thought very highly of them, did you?
Yeah, well, absolutely, 100%. These guys, I never felt worried about those guys because their vetting system was quite strict. So in order to get into that regiment, I think you had to be recommended by someone that was already serving. And also, like, one thing that I thought was really inspiring was just watching these guys in action. And, you know, we can't forget that I deployed for 6 months, but they were there the whole time doing this day in, day out. So I think by the time I left, I reckon these guys, obviously now I think they're obviously disbanded, but they must have been probably one of the most active Special Forces units and one of the most, you know, highly experienced teams, because they did several of these kind of high-profile crisis response operations, you know, like fucking room clearing and all that kind of stuff. And I just thought, yeah, it was surreal. I remember on the first call-up we did, the assault sections, they're all lined up in single file, or they all had their rifles in the high port, and just like watching them go off into the building that was next to us where all the insurgents were. It's just, yeah. So yeah, I have massive respect for those guys. It's crazy, crazy experience.
How did you feel then when the country was collapsing? The way that kind of politicians and a lot of veterans and civilians were kind of talking about the lack of backbone in the Afghans.
Yeah, that's a good question. I genuinely felt I did feel quite sad and quite distraught about it, because you're watching their pictures in Kabul, right? And one thing that did struck me, and I still wonder about it to this day, is like, where are those guys now? Do you know what I mean? Because I wondered, like, were they all wiped out? Did they manage to escape? But I did always think in the back of my mind, I thought, well, if anyone's going to give the Taliban a hard time, you know, these guys, you can guarantee these guys will put in a good show. But yeah, I do wonder about that. Like, where are they now? Are they, you know, because it seems such a shame. You know, it would have been sick if, I think this idea was floated if the UK government had kind of rescued some of these guys and brought them over and put them into a unit here. Do you know what I mean? They're kind of, their real world knowledge and expertise and experience that they've won, you know, through doing countless operations, I think would have been really, really cool. Like a Gurkha unit, but Afghans, you know?
Yeah. I mean, what I think what I try to get at is like, obviously, there was this criticism of these Afghans, people saying that the reason that the Taliban took over was because of a lack of the will of the Afghans to fight and that kind of thing. But it sounds like you're saying that from your experience,
no,
there's no lack of will. Or
no, not from these guys. No, no, definitely not. Maybe some of the army units, but then again, like, I don't know. I think it's easy for people to say that, but imagine being there, like, you know, you're getting steamrolled. All of your checkpoints are getting rolled up. I know we wouldn't. I don't know how we'd react and how we'd operate, but yeah, definitely not from them guys anyway.
Well, I've always said it's we'd be fucked without air power.
Yeah,
and I just think, like, why then do we expect that the Afghan army would have been all right without it? So, you know, I mean, like, how much would have been left? With all the respect in the world to the paras, I'm sure a lot of them say the same thing. A lot of them are in these patrol bases in 2006 and checkpoints would say that they'd been fucked without air power.
Yeah.
So, you know, you pull that out, mate, there's not much left, is there? But anyway, this isn't about my opinion. This is about yours. Anything else that you want to kind of get in, mate?
What I'd say is, I've got some notes here.
Got his notebook out.
I got my notepad and pen. What I was gonna say was, on my first tour, actually, I forgot to. I don't know how to bring this in. I think for those of us, anyone listening that's leaving or that feels, I don't know, a bit disillusioned, always remember, like, what we have and what we've been through, the skill sets that we have gained are head and shoulders above what most civvies have, if that makes sense. And you never know when these kind of skill sets are going to be called upon. For example, I was just after, I think it was just when COVID had just started, and I'd gone to the supermarket, and I was on my way home, and I came across an RTA road traffic accident, and there was a guy who was crossing the road, and he'd been clipped by a car, but I'd missed the actual collision. But apparently the lady said it's not funny. The guy flipped over the car and landed on his back. And when I arrived, there was just this guy on his back, eyes wide open. There was a woman kneeling next to him on the phone. And I was just like, I jumped out of the car and I was like, in a weird way, I felt good. I was like, oh my God, fucking, I'm needed. Do you know what I mean? I can help. So I ran over. And yeah, I did the whole shake and shout thing. And I couldn't see any kind of, but he looked like he wasn't breathing. He looked like he was dead with his eyes open. And I says to the woman, I was like, look, this guy, I don't think he's breathing. So the people on the phone were like, you need to start chest compressions. So I'm there fucking, doing these compressions. And then they say you have to do it with enough force to break ribs. I don't think I broke any ribs, but it was hard enough that he kind of grabbed my arm after a while. And I was like, fucking, and he kind of came back around. But so we put him into the recovery position. And yeah, I ended up being in the paper for that. But I guess what I'm trying to say is you never know when your skills could be needed, and we still, you still have a lot of value to add to society, I guess. And also with mental health, we're obviously losing a lot of guys, and I think if anyone's ever feeling away, I know we always say it, but pick up the phone, talk to someone. I've got a WhatsApp group chat called the Airborne Brotherhood, and that group chat is brilliant. It's made up of loads of different people who've served in 216. We don't all know each other. Some of us served together, some of us didn't. But I reckon if I ever had a problem or I was struggling, if I put on that WhatsApp group, said, lads, I'm struggling today, someone would go, what's your postcode? I'm coming to see you. And also it's the banter of that WhatsApp group is legendary. We were talking, right? And one of the lads, I don't know how it came about, but somebody mentioned that they'd lost a parent. And I kind of weighed in with what happened to my mom. I said, oh, this is my story. And then one of the other lads, now he weighs in, he tells his tragic story of how he's lost his dad. And obviously this is a serious chat thread, right? And we're all just, it's quite somber. And then someone pops up and goes, oh, has anyone got a number for Jim? I need a reference. And then Dan replies, no, mate, just discussing dead parents. Shall I get the yellow pages out? Oh, it's just that kind of humor, man.
So one thing I want to ask you then, mate, you mentioned, because you've had a very different experience in the sense of you were on the ground in Helmand, but you also saw Kabul. And I had this conversation with a friend of mine once, because I think a lot of people who were in Helmand never really saw too much progress in Afghanistan, because a lot of the time, all you see is contacts and stuff, and you think, or not even contacts necessarily, but IEDs, and you're thinking, well, what's the point in us even being here? And so one of my friends who'd been in Kabul, he said, I felt the same way until I did a job in Kabul, and then I saw people, women wearing not whatever they wanted, but, dressed in, without these restrictions of religion, and, kind of kids on the way to school and that kind of thing. Did you have that similar kind of experience in Kabul?
Oh, yeah, that's a really good point, because I absolutely agree. Kabul was such a contrast. It was so different to Helmand that it was like driving around the city at night. There was all these buildings. They looked like casinos, but they were wedding halls. People were doing normal. I was like, fucking hell, I thought gambling's illegal. It's like, no, this is a wedding hall. I was like, fucking hell, how many people get married here? But people were doing normal stuff. People were socializing on the street. As you said, there would be women that have head coverings, but not burqas, and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was a really, I don't know how to say it. Yeah, it was really it was so different. And yeah, the progress in the country, you could really tell. People had freedoms, and that's why I think when Kabul fell, I think it really hits people differently. And I think that I felt quite devastated seeing that, because it was we drove those same streets. You know what I mean? We literally fought battles in those. You see the footage. You're we fought battles there. Do you know what I mean? And we were in those same streets, and it was really sad to see it fall. So I think, yeah, how do you measure? Was it worth it? That's a tough one to answer, isn't it?
Well, I want to end up on a positive note, mate. You are a positive note. I'll say that, mate. You've been through a lot of shit. No, mate, you are. You've been through so much shit in your life, mate, and you've basically pretty much been smiling all the way through this podcast. So, yeah, dead proud of you, mate. It's the longest conversation we ever had, mate. But fair play to you for coming through that and being a good bloke at the end of it. I mean, I have a soft spot for DJs too, but especially with the first DJ PTI that we've had on here. Like what? I guess, mate, I'm not good. I don't know. This isn't the right way to put it, but it's the only thing that's coming to mind right now. Like, what is the secret to that? To keep on smiling after you've had fucking hardships in your life, mate. Incredible hardships. Like what?
I think laughter. I'm always laughing. Do you know what I mean? I think that banter and the humility, the humor that you have in the army. I think laughter. I'm always fucking laughing. Do you know what I mean? Like I said, I went for a meal with my family, and a woman was sat behind me. I heard a massive thud. I turned around. This woman had fucking hit the deck. She was elderly, so I'm like, I immediately could feel the tears coming. I'm like, I should be laughing. And I look across the table. My nieces and nephews are like, look at Uncle Mike, and I'm just like, I'm like, thinking, fucking please God, hope that she's all right. But yeah, I'd say laughter. What I was going to say was, I've got a. Is it still all right if I read my poem that I wrote?
Hey, stop asking for permission.
Too polite, you know what I mean?
Yeah, go for it, mate.
So yeah, to end on this note, when I came back from Afghan, I think one of the toughest questions, people would ask loads of questions, did you kill anyone, all those stupid ones, but the toughest one to answer for me, I felt, was, what was it like over there, right? And how do you answer a question like that to somebody who's never been? It's hard to kind of get that message across. So I kind of came up with this poem, and it just kind of helped me express that. It's called Saturday Night, and the experience is really inspired by the guys that died, really, because I've always wondered what was their experience, what were their last thoughts, what were they thinking about. So I've wrote it's called Saturday Night, so I'll just go for it. Saturday, off out with the lads, or drinking with a girlie. 04:30, Afghanistan. The troops, they're up, though it's early. Sunbed check, hair check. Help me do my makeup. I'm tired, sleepy. Only 2 hours kip. Man, I really need to wake up. Euphoria and excitement for the night to be had. We're about to step off. Thoughts turn to my girlfriend, my family, how I miss my mum and dad. The dance floor is now a minefield. Broken glass, aromas horrid and sickly. Only 2 more weeks. I'm going home. I can't wait to go home. And then it hit me. Sunday. Oh God, my head. What happened last night? Afghanistan. Another hero lays dead. Victim of an IED strike. That's the poem.